Hey guys, it's me, Kelly. I have on one of the most requested back people on the show again. You guys just love Barry Littleton. You just love him. And I get messages, I get emails, I get all kinds of Kelly. Like you'll break into, I'm talking about something completely different. It's like, have Barry back on your show. So anyway, without further ado, here's Barry. I got it back for you.
Hey. How you doing, Kelly? It's good to see you.
Awesome.
I want to say thank you. Thank you for having me back on. I'm really blown away. I mean, I didn't expect to get the amount of responses that came from our last interview. I want to thank everybody, and I must say you have a very forgiving audience.
I do. Because they understand technical difficulties, and I'm not a technical person. So if they're not forgiving, they just move on. So
I understand.
it's like, oh yay, yeah, you made it. Yay. We made it. Finally. I love you. I love you. We're getting lots of comments already. So they are raring to go.
Excellent.
Oh, so I don't know. We can just go ahead and start. Someone had asked about the Kesh Foundation. Am I saying that right?
Yes, yes,
Foundation. Like, what do
yes.
you know about the Kesh Foundation?
I want to start off by also telling everybody thank you because I have nothing to sell and I'm fairly unknown. So the fact that anyone wants to hear anything I have to say is probably a miracle. Concerning the Kesh Foundation, when it first came to my attention, there was a gentleman that had a process of changing the contamination of radiation of water. And he was looking at doing something in Fukushima and with 0 point energy. And when he put that out, he pretty much just got dismissed. There's also they also had a lot of anti-gravity technology they were working with, and you can get on YouTube and press in the Keys Foundation and anti-gravity, and a lot of stuff will come up. Some of them that people say, oh, they're little kit cards flying around, but nonetheless, it's interesting. But certain things concerning that radiation cleanup that certain came to my attention recently in Chernobyl, they found a type of fungus growing up the wall of the reactor, and the reason why this really caught my attention is because the robots had to go in and get some of this. It looked like black slime, basically, and with the whole
Oh,
black, with
that
the whole,
sounds familiar,
yeah,
doesn't
with,
it?
with the whole the black goo thing. But this is slightly different in that it is okay. This fungus is taking melanin. Okay, it's basically skin
What?
pigment, melanin, and using that to convert gamma radiation into a food source and for growth, for energy. Okay. Now, I don't mean to be like a little kid, but that's what the Incredible Hulk did. He was a gamma radiation mutant. All
Okay,
right.
now I remember that. It's been a while, but okay, yeah.
Yeah. But as far as melanin and the lack of the melanin dealing with that process is very interesting because that organism, that fungus, can easily grow in interstellar space. It can live in interstellar space. It's living in a reactor where humans can't even go close to. You know what I mean? So I mean that's something to be
Mm.
aware of, and I think that the Quiche Foundation might be touching on that with a 0 point technology to try to do some sort of radiation cleanup. So and
Oh.
things like that, I think is very important. Because Fukushima may be the worst man-made disaster we're seeing in the history, in our history.
Mhm.
I think it's being covered up now, but it's going to come to light. That radiation is going around the sea around the whole world.
It is, and not to scare people because I mean this is scary, but there are people that were in Japan when the bombs were dropped
Mm-hmm.
who ate miso soup with seaweed in it. Be careful where you get your seaweed, obviously, but just the miso soup will help to get to process the radiation, and you will not have radiation sickness. So we don't want to scare everybody that oh my gosh this is happening and there's no solution. That you at home can go buy miso paste and I personally mix it with chicken broth. You can mix it with water and eat that soup a couple bowls a day, and you should be able to clear the radiation out. So we don't want to scare you guys without any solutions, but yes, this is a horrible thing that's happened with the radiation. And when there's free energy, and this is what the Kesh Foundation is promoting also is the free energy. the energy that comes off the planet. When I had my implants, my alien implants removed, there was something horrible underneath me that got removed. Suddenly I could connect to the planet. And when I connected to the planet, it was like standing on a geyser. The energy I felt, and not only did I feel it, I saw it. It was kind of like a purplish pink that was coming out everywhere I looked. It was coming out. There's already technology. It's called a pyramid. There's already technology that can harness this energy, and you can put it into something like a battery. You can use it as electricity or convert it into other things. But this is something that they're looking at doing, and it absolutely makes sense. And why should we continue to contaminate and poison our planet when there are other solutions? I for one am done. I'm done, and I'm not going to let them do it. I don't know about you, but I'm done, and I'm not going to allow them to continue any longer.
Well, if you look at people like Mitchell Kako and Neil Tyson deGrasse, when they start talking about type 1 civilizations, we're still a type 0 civilization, which means we're using fossil fuels and destroying our natural sphere to survive. Once we go to type 1 civilization, we begin to start using the parent star for our power source, which we call solar energy, of course. Let alone type 3 civilizations that are monitoring this planet that we're interacting with. Gotcha. Okay.
Barry's voice. Can you guys hear Barry okay? Let me know if you can hear him okay. I might need to turn his microphone up. He'll let us know.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'll hold it up to my mouth. Maybe that'll help a little bit. Is that better?
That's good. Let me see if I'm gonna just turn you up all the way. Let's see how that is. Okay, go ahead and say hi.
Okay. Hello. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Oh, that affected it a little bit, but I think they'll let us know if they can't hear you. So
okay.
I thought I interrupted your story.
That's all right.
Someone LOL'd us.
Where were we at?
We're talking about the free energy and the Catch Foundation, and
yeah, I think type 0 civilizations, what Mitchell Kako and Neil Tyson deGrasse say, a type 0 civilization, civilization is still using fossil fuels and it's destroying the natural planet to survive. Type 1 civilization is using the parent star for their power source. And that's where solar energy, and that's what we're starting to get towards, but we're still not type 1 yet, let alone type 2, type 3 civilizations that are, monitoring this planet that a lot of people don't want to admit. That's another story.
So what is type 2 and type 3? What do they use then?
Type 2 starts using wormholes and getting energy or power from dark energy, from dark matter, actually. So you're that's taking it to the next level. And if you think of movies like, what was it, 2001: A Space Odyssey?
Mm-hmm. I just watched that 2 days ago.
Very, very boring movie. I mean, there's nothing but instrumentals the whole time. But
I did it to actually fall asleep.
It'll do that. 2010 was a little better, but when you look at the actual premises of it, that monolith came to Earth, or came to the moon first and came to Europa. But it basically was not active at first until we kind of got to the point of being a type 1 civilization. And then it became making contact. So that's kind of what I think needs to be thought about also, especially when we look at the moon and some of the things on there. So. Okay.
So they said they could hear you okay. So if you want to try and put it back down, then we'll test it that way. I'm sorry. You guys know we had technical difficulties. We're blaming it on the aliens. They're not here to defend themselves, so we're going to blame it on.
Now they're going to think I was abducted. We'll have to go into all that. I wasn't abducted.
You were not abducted. You were not abducted. Let's see. He's a little low, but still audible. Okay. We're doing good. And it's worth the wait, Barry. Love your updo. Oh, how funny, you guys. It's a ponytail.
My haircut never changes, so I guess I don't notice that.
Someone just watched some of the last show this morning. They're so pumped for you coming on here. Just a quick hi from Annette in the UK.
Wow. Hello, Annette.
I love your hair
Oh,
today. I told you, Barry was all nervous, and I'm like, don't worry, they're just going to talk about my hair. This is gonna, it's going to be okay. Love and tranquility to you all. They are so sweet. So, anyway, so yeah, the Kesh Foundation. Anything else along the lines of the Kesh Foundation? Because they've started. It's like they put out this. We're gonna do this, and so I was like so excited. I did a video. Then everybody's like, what's he doing now? He's doing nothing now. And then all of a sudden, I'm starting to see all these things from the Kesh Foundation are starting to come.
You know, outside of him trying to get the radiation of the nuclear water and doing that, getting that passed, that's the last thing they were doing that was really apprised of. And I mean, their anti-gravity technology is always worth monitoring by all means. So that.
Yeah. They've got like a YouTube channel, and I keep getting like new videos, and I'm like, yes, keep going. And there's was it the UK is defying the United Nations, and they're going ahead with free energy. Yeah. So that's what I said. We're not taking this anymore. That's this kind of stuff that we're going to start doing. We're just going to start doing it. When enough people are doing it, they can't regulate us anymore. When they can't control all of us.
Yes. I mean, there's so many, even garage experiments. I mean, how many people have you known over the years that are working on projects in their garage? You know, that kind of stuff has been getting shut down for so long. The different types of type 0 point energy technology there is. And especially when you're dealing with things like the Kashmir effect, you know, that's coming from a vacuum, which is little more than 2 metal plates in a vacuum. And the energy, the 0 point energy that natural comes there. I've been on ships that they use that premise to power them quite a bit. You know what I mean? Not just that, but some of these ships are grown in 0 point space. And that comes to back to the point of the fungus we just talked about at Chernobyl. You know, I couldn't accept at first why I didn't understand that some of the ships I'd been on, the interior of them was similar to like a mushroom, like a toadstool. I don't know what you call them down in Texas, but up here we call some of those poisonous mushrooms that come up in the city toadstools. But they have a special texture on them. And the inside of these ships, when I touched them, is a lot like that. That's when I knew they were organic in that way. But I didn't still understand. I could feel the amount of sentience that they had. That makes sense. Sorry, I'm probably totally getting off.
Oh, that's why they love you, is because you're just, hey, this is how it is. Now, when you're saying ships, some of them that don't know a lot about you, what are you talking about when you say ship?
UFO, either the crafts of extraterrestrial or in some cases interdimensional beings. I found that some of these ships are populated with both. And when I, went on a ship, I say this all the time, it wasn't like Star Trek. I've been a Star Trek fan since a kid, for these reasons. But when you're on a multi-dimensional ship, you don't have Sulu over there, Spock over here. The dimensions at stations, dimensions are not like that. We talked before about the eggs and different things that contain a different environment in them that for many beings that aren't even physical. So that's what I mean. And when I'm combining that with the symbiotic nature of some of these ships and the organic nature inside. So that's what I'm talking of is a physical experience on board the craft.
This one, because I interviewed someone on the flat Earth, so and we're not asking you if the Earth is flat, but this is a question kind of like going along the same lines, and I don't know how you want to answer this. If the Earth is enclosed, meaning that the Earth is down here and there's a dome over it and it's enclosed, then would only alien contact be the beings under the planet?
Oh, that's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. That'll take us somewhat into something that I've been discussing with Annette and some other people concerning Corey Good. I think he'll come up a little bit later. But this has to do with the inner Earth, what we used to call the hollow Earth. And, that goes back to what Admiral Byrd said and all that. But the inner Earth, to my knowledge, is more like a catacombs as opposed to being as hollow as what they say. But you've got civilizations that went under Earth during the cataclysms of Mu and the other cataclysms we've had here. So you've got that, and not just that, but I myself have been inside of a type of a mountain, some type of a base in there that was not a human base. But inside of these mountains, you've got cities in there, small cities. You know what I mean? Our base is the size of that. So I think that and there's a term I came to recognize about a couple of years ago by a guy named Mac Toonies that wrote a book called Crypto Terrestrials. And what he dealt with was a lot of the beings that are on the inner earth that have been using extraterrestrial guise and screen memories to trick us to think that they're coming from there when really they're from here. And you do have both factions going on. So when they ask that, say that, that's correct. And I can tell you from my past life memories, all right, there used to be a firmament around this planet. Like many of the planets in this solar system have a firmament. And the Christian Bible, I believe, talks about how the flood quite a bit. That was when that firmament got damaged by the technology we were using back then. So there's a lot more to that scenario than is what is being said. You know what I mean? You've got reasons. So you had several cataclysms that split up Mu and turned it into what is commonly called Lemuria and then Atlantis. That was once Mu. That was one until those cataclysms broke it up. And eventually afterwards, the natural cataclysms took out Atlantis. So, you know, I'm meeting a lot of people now that are, reincarnating this time that have a memory of drowning from Atlantis. You know, a lot of people have a fear of water right now and have a knowledge of these crystals that are solar charged that emit light from the inside. Some of them are still active on this planet, causing rifts in time.
That is really interesting. And while you were starting to talk, I wrote down the word Atlantis. I was going to ask you about that because I've seen a lot of misinformation about Atlantis. And I'm not going to say what the sources are, but I've seen some people having discussions about, oh, they're the authority on Atlantis and what they say is true. And then I kind of look at the information and go, it's not quite right. There's partial truth and it just doesn't feel quite right. So what is your take on Atlantis?
I'll say this. If people were looking for information concerning Atlantis, material-wise, the first one I resonated with as a child was Edgar Cayce on Atlantis. What he says in that book is somewhat accurate. All right. Interestingly enough, there's another gentleman right now. I'm trying to think of his name, but what he's focused on is the Uranta book, okay, and which is this book right here. And it's I've got my issues with this book. It's very thick and it's got some good things in it, but you need a lot of discernment when you're actually reading it. It's thick. But there's a point in there where they talk about the Uranta means earth. So basically the earth book, all right? Now there's a part in it where they talk about the second Garden of Eden and where it was located, which was a peninsula. Now there's a gentleman that is doing, God, what's his name? I can't remember. He's actually using that as a location to dive for Atlantis. And I believe he's found some artifacts and things like that. So just interesting, and he keeps claiming that actually the second garden, the second Eden in this book, the location is where Atlantis actually was. So I mean, it's just little things like that. So many things come up, but he's got the satellites and the technology. He's trying to do an expedition there. So I'm always more to see who turns up hard evidence, opposed to what Plato said. So much of what Plato said about Atlantis is best based on that. But I think right now we've got a lot of people incarnating right now that have a vivid memory of Atlantis. You know, there's a brother I'll give a shout out to named K9. Him and I have become pretty good friends, and I met him. He lives down in Texas. He's actually a battle rapper, but he has a memory of drowning, very much so. I've talked to a couple of people and has a fear of water, saying I knew something happened to me in another life, and resonates with things in Atlantis. But we've got such a long cycle that we have, not just between Atlantis but Mu. You have several of us that lived thousands of years. We didn't even have physical bodies until we came to this planet in this solar system. You know, people don't want to talk about that and everything. Like everybody just came from Sirius, everybody came from Pleiades, and that's not correct. Some of us come from what's called the spheres of light and life. That's way out there. Not 900, 1,000 million light years on a spectrum beyond nanospace. You know, some of my early guides, I'd ask them, where are you from? And they tell me you wouldn't understand. And that used to irritate me a little bit. What do you mean by that? I don't understand. Try me. You know, they start thinking we're from beyond the exo-space-time continuum. All right, I don't understand. What the hell does that mean? But as a kid,
don't ask me. You don't want to know.
Yeah. As a kid, it was hard to understand these type of things. Exospace, I think now, as they've defined it, is multiverse and also nanospace, beyond nanospace. Vibrations faster than that.
Okay.
Sorry, I feel like I'm going way off on tangents and not addressing anything anybody asked.
Oh no, it's opening up for more discussions. And I learned, like, well, someone told me, like, you know, what is beyond the multiverse, and it's omniverse, I think, because I was grasping for vocabulary, and I was just thinking omniverse. So
you know, the way I can describe it that in a scientific way, of the theories that I've seen, the one that seems to conform to it the most would be bubble theory. Because
I recently, after I got my implants removed and I went out and looked, I saw a bunch of freaking bubbles. And I was like, what? So, okay, now tell us about the bubbles. I got to know about the bubbles.
See, here's where you go there. Somebody's going to come out of the woodwork and say, that guy sucks, man. He's totally wrong. Which may or may not be right.
I've heard it from a bunch of people now. When I'm like, this kind of looks like bubbles. And they're like, oh, yes, so-and-so teaches that, and I've seen them, and so everybody but me knew about the bubbles. Now
I can tell you how I've seen it, how it was presented to me. All right, and I'll try to kind of tie this into the science we have going currently. There's a thing, the laws of thermodynamics. All right, and the thing that comes from that process of generating energy called entropy. All right, and entropy actually, at the universe as a closed system, is always expanding through dark force, which they've proved that. But nonetheless, it's still generating a lot of entropy that doesn't account for the expansion. So that entropy has to go somewhere. And I think a lot of it goes to what Dr. Rudy Shields and a lot of the people with the Free Foundation, with Ray Hernandez and everybody, are calling MACOs, magnetically, eternally collapsing objects. That is basically a modified, different way of describing through the data they've got on black holes. Not just Stephen Hawking saying this is theoretical. You've got astrophysics that are using the satellite imagery, using the data to try to put this together. All right. And interestingly enough, for you and I, we're going to get into this again. All right. In the MACO, in the black hole itself, this is the black hole, in the front of it, the aperture, when something enters it, they're saying it creates a quantum hologram, which is a perfect replica of the thing that goes into it. All right. And that stays on the outside. So in that way, we're also seeing the universe through the Hubble telescope. We're actually seeing the quantum hologram, if that makes sense. Yes. But for you and I, what we'll talk about later, which the masseuse thing, and I believe that's a quantum overlay on things. All right. And that takes it, because we know they're micro wormholes. We know they're larger ones. And each one of these is going to be capable of producing a quantum hologram. And you've described that a lot when you describe your perception of the moon.
Oh, really?
Think about it.
Oh.
There's, we're going way left.
Keep going.
It gets into some.
We had no outline for the show, so keep going.
If you get into some of the things like the technology that's been back engineered, all right, things like, and a lot of people have been bringing this up, the Chad drone, the drones that we're seeing in Arizona, probably like, it's been 10 years ago. And there's about 4 or 5 pictures of them. Anybody can look it up. They're called the Chad Dragonfly drones. There's about probably 6 pictures of them, and there's this technology that phased in and phased out. And a lot of people tried to attack the pictures immediately, and this just happened. They were only seen for maybe a couple of minutes, and some people got pictures of them.
Okay, is this what you're talking about?
Yes. Okay, the one on the far right. Can you zoom in on that?
Is this?
Yes. Do you see the symbols on the tail there? You see those symbols? Okay. That's a good picture. The symbols on that tail. Don't those look like crop circles to you?
Oh my gosh, they do. Look at that. Look at
That's
that.
a language. So what you're dealing with in this sacred language, okay? You've got three types of this technology, and this is what they've been back engineering from craft or whatever. And I've seen some of it on these crafts myself. One would be holographic projection, okay? That is one thing they've got. Number two is invisibility cloaks through what our science now calls metamaterial. All right, and then the other thing would be anti-gravity technology. But you know, the holographic principle and what we used to call when I was younger in the 80s, like we used to go to the party sometimes, go out to the mall because they had these virtual reality scenario machines, these virtual reality machines. Okay, and that's something that kind of played out along with Sega and all that in the home. Do you remember that at all?
No.
Okay. Well, my point being on the drone there, the drones were only visible for a minute and then they phased out.
Okay.
Now, question being this: you have a guy that came forward, I think, with Linda Moulton Howe, and he produced with several crop circle type of sacred language, he called it. And he said he was an engineer at a place in Silicon Valley, and he worked for a place called Carrot, CARAT. So they're called the Carrot documents. All right. But he said he worked on back engineering self-activating software. And that's what it did. It had invisibility technology, holographic technology, and anti-gravity technology. Now, what brings that up is, why were these drones visible for a minute? Was it, I don't want to say the word, Big Brother giving some sort of a frequency that's kind of showing how many of those have been in our atmosphere? And we don't know that came from Silicon Valley. That could have been something that's been in our atmosphere for 1,000 years. We don't know. And I've been talking a lot about terraforming and why these crop circles, how I've been hearing they've been using satellites to try to track the satellites because they think it's entry and exit points for time travelers. And how also it's a monitoring system for what they're doing. And if you combine that with the sacred places like Globeke Tempe and even Stonehenge with some of these crop circles, you might have self-activating software. These symbols right here, I've seen a piece of debris that's supposedly from the Roswell crash. Mm-hmm. It's got a little motor and it's got two pieces of metal on each side of it. All right. Now, it's also got sacred symbols on there like that, but they're very, very small. And if you get these metal pieces even close to that engine, they begin levitating. Automatic anti-gravity. I myself have seen different symbols on these ships, and I didn't always know what they meant, or on different devices. Sorry, let's go back to the questions, or I'm going to keep talking. And
keep talking.
Completely get moved. Like I say, don't never have that guy out there.
I'm sitting here trying to find those symbols that you're talking about. And okay, let me see. Sorry, I'm the not technical person. Let me do share screen. Okay, there we go. Okay, is this what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen so many symbols now that that's probably them. That look like that could be Roswell. I don't know, but yeah, that's sacred symbols though, or ancient symbols, I guess we should call them. And you know, so right now you have so many people that on Facebook, I do a lot of communicating through Facebook. I see a lot of people will post. They write a lot of people call it alien language, extraterrestrial language. Mary Rodwell has recorded a lot of this. But if you look at some of those symbols, I believe you've got some that will match some crop circles and other things. You're dealing with a self-activating software again.
Mm-hmm. Do these look a little more similar?
Oh. You know, I'm not an expert in that. I see the one in the middle looks a little familiar, and the one on the end looks like a chess piece.
Yeah, I was looking at that. Interesting.
But I mean, there's a lot of people that can probably read that, and I think we need to start maybe putting some of these symbols together and trying to understand what parts of this is. Stonehenge, I found out, resonates at uh, uh, 10 hertz. When they did all the diameter and the size of it and everything, they found out that it resonates at 10 hertz. That ties into the binaural beats thing and all that. I'm no expert on music, but I mean that's the alpha state of the brain runs at 10 hertz. So what were they really doing? That was not just an astronomical device for measurement. It's also producing sound frequencies that would more or less maybe tranquilize the human brain. So were they keeping us asleep or were they helping us?
That's a really good question.
We think about things like terraforming, and people don't ever really want to get into that because we think it must be like Star Trek 3, one of the worst movies of that franchise, the ones I didn't like very much. But that was called The Search of the. See, there you go, Stonehenge. But the Search for Spock, what that was about was terraforming by something they called the Genesis Project. And I think that puts a lot of the movie glamour on it. But if you take that part, you take that away, what would a terraforming of planet Earth have been like for the last several millennia? What would it really be like? Would it be electromagnetic? Magnetic? Would it be orgone energy? Would it be all these? Or would it be what we're seeing now? These symbols, self-activating software on a planetary scale. Food for thought, that's all.
I've got a question.
Sure.
Now, this is a theory, and I think it goes along with something you just said a while ago, but tell me if this makes sense to you. When you go to the Bible, which is a historical record on some level, when you go back to the Bible, you have people living 900 years old, 800 years old, and now that has been reduced to under 120. Usually about 70, 80 years old is what people are living. And when they're talking about the atmosphere was so much bigger and able to support dinosaurs and people could live longer. The atmosphere was bigger, and the atmosphere shrunk down to a smaller size. Does that sound like something that makes sense to you at all?
Quite similar. That's the firmament I just felt about.
The firmament. Okay, because I thought you had kind of touched on that.
Yeah, on the firmament, is basically like an ocean between us and the stars in the sky. Okay. And that's what came down, but at the same time, kind of addressing that question, at the same time, that firmament stopped a lot of cosmic radiation from coming to the surface here, at least in the intensity it does now. You know what I mean? So once the firmament fell, the cosmic rays started coming in here, cutting the statue of people down, their statue, and also the life expectancy. And if you think about it right now, a lot of us die from cancer, which is basically a type of solar radiation exposure, from a lack of a better word. And also, I can recall, this is going back to what I remember, and you can tie this into the doggone when they say the Nomo came here from Sirius. The Nomo were blue, small blue beings that were aquatic to a certain degree. But there were other beings I recall being here also that were blue from Sirius. Little blue, not grays, but humanoids that are small and blue.
Saying like actual human, like with blue skin, not like the blue guy that was there to meet me when I died, right?
No, not that guy. You probably would bring that up later.
Talk about the blue guy. I'm like, woo, don't go into the light.
The last one was the blue guy. Yeah, the blue guy. No, these are actually blue pigmentation, a type of melanin.
Okay, actually. Okay.
Now, when the firmament fell, a lot of these small blues that did not leave, they didn't have the melanin to resist the cosmic radiation, and a lot of them turned black or brown. So that's just another population that is here mixed in at that time, if that makes sense.
Sorry.
Sorry, did I address that at all? The firmament thing, that's kind of what I come to with that, and that's okay. Once that fell, but that was also what could be the Great Flood and one of the cataclysms that's been mentioned.
Oh, exactly. Now, on the blue people, and this is just maybe an opinion kind of thing. I use colloidal silver. Am I blue? I use a lot of it. No, I'm not blue. But they had the blue guy on Oprah, that took too much. I think he drank like a gallon a day for several years, or never tested how potent it was
Yeah.
either. I
Yeah.
test mine to know how strong mine is. So, anyway, do you think on some level they're programming people to go, oh, if I see someone who's blue, they just took too much colloidal silver. Let's take a step back from big pharma wants to sell you all their drugs, and colloidal silver kills pretty much everything out there. Let's take a step back from that. Do you think it's a conditioning that if you do see the blue people, oh, just took too much colloidal silver?
I think that's probably too common of an excuse right now. I just got through hearing about the UFO conference that was held. Oh, where was it? I mean, this was just probably a few weeks ago. And apparently, when Travis Walton and others are signing autographs or whatever, a couple of blue individuals walked in that had a unique skin color that they appeared to be blue. They walked around, talked to people, and everybody's like, man, those are basically Pleiadians, right? Everything's always from the Pleiadians now, but they walked around, interacted with people, and I guess conversed about some things. But I think that might be becoming more common. And the first excuse for that was, oh, it's like the blue guy that ate all the colloidal silver. That kind of be all it was. Or some type of a trick, and some reason they were able to avoid the cameras and didn't go around them. So obviously, just like Sasquatch, they avoid camera, don't they? Anyway.
Mm-hmm. So, sorry, I'm trying to share this. There we go. Check it out. Is that the conditioning or what?
I think, what I always found more interesting than that was the luminous filaments they had in their tails and how they connected those and how that connected to the root system of the trees and the planet. I thought that was almost a little more interesting in that movie,
Oh, exactly. And I had Dwayne was saying something like, the ponytail that they had, the ponytail would, do that little thing and all. He was teaching me a technique to take that ponytail and plug it into source. Like you've got a ponytail, you've got an avatar ponytail. Take that ponytail and plug it into source. Like he taught me how to do that, and all of a sudden it was like, woo! I felt like I was plugged in. So.
That's cool. Manipulation of the dream body. When people understand that the dream body, we have two dreams. We can go into all the different bodies we have, but we can put it in two aspects. We have the physical body and the dream body. And that comes down to what type of a warrior, light warrior we really are. Spiritual warrior. But the dream body can be made nearly through quantum light, almost as corporeal as the physical body, if you know how to transfer your awareness and consciousness to it. And once you get into the realm of dealing with your consciousness in the dream body, you quickly understand it does not conform to the modern physical laws of physics that our physical bodies do, being gravity, being shape-shifting, being all these things, but people don't remember that. And being somebody that tried to mess with it a little bit, it's damn hard to master it and get too deep into it. Because some of us we have two different types of spiritual warriors here. One is the natural dreamers. Those of us that incarnate that can just dream. I mean, they're dreaming lucidly and they remember their dreams when they wake up. And then you have others like me, what we could call gatherers, or what Carlos Castaneda called them, stalkers. Someone that has to act a specific way in the waking consciousness, meditation, prayer, doing things, no routine, that breaks and frees up enough surplus energy so that we can dream lucidly and remember our dreams. You see what I'm saying? And that takes like so much of our awareness and our consciousness is consumed with just paying your bills, taking care of your kids, dealing with these maniacs down here. This is the dangerous place, most dangerous place in the universe. The population down here is not totally insane, but out of 10 people, excuse my language here, but 7 of them are fucked up. I mean, they're dangerous as heck, and I don't want to. You know what I mean? So that consumes a lot of our waking consciousness and our free energy, and takes away from exploring directly through God, or I'm sorry, everybody likes the word source these days, so I'll use that. It stops us from going directly to source. You know what I mean? And it leaves us very little free energy to perceive any of the other side of awareness, where the death process lies, the dream state lies, things like that. So, someone like me used a lot of my techniques I tried, and a lot of these spiritual practices to try to gain enough awareness that I could stay aware during the dream cycle and pass the gates of dreaming. There's a few of them,
That is freaking awesome. I love it when you come on here.
Well, somebody asked me recently, I think it was my friend, once again, Canine comes up. He wanted to start dream practices. And the first one is very simple. It's and anyone can try this. Look at your hands when you're dreaming. When you're asleep, look at your hands. Oh, when you're
dreaming, okay.
And then tell me if they're your hands. And to achieve this, you have to transfer the command from your waking consciousness state right now into the dream state, which means just before you go to bed, we're really tired, sit on in the bed for just a second, give yourself like a minute. I'm gonna look at my hands. Okay, and that's the first step, to look at them. And then anybody that's on my Facebook communicates with me, send me an email, tell me if they were your hands and what they look like. But more than likely, you won't be able to do it the first time you try, and that leads people to want to give up and say, forget it. I couldn't do it. I kept trying. I couldn't do it.
Keep going.
And what that does is, once you can see your hands, then you can start looking around, and you shift what is called dream attention, a part of our consciousness where you have your attention and you're corporeally looking at things, and you can focus on things and shift it a little bit. Then you might black out again, but it's a process. That process.
It sounds like a challenge. I'm going to try it.
I bet you can do it probably pretty easy. I bet you dream lucidly, don't you?
Well, does that mean, because I'm not the vocabulary queen, does that mean that you're dreaming in your dream? Because I do.
Yeah. Some people tell me they can even control them a little. I questioned that one a little bit, but I think that there's some people that are aware there. For me, I'm sorry.
Well, when I did it, I could do it in a dream and go, oh, I'm in a dream, and then I start to do things. But there was one time that the dream was awful, and people were coming to kill me, and they were about to kill me, and I woke up for some reason, I can't remember. But then I went, wait a minute, I'm gonna fix this. And then when I went right back to sleep, I got right back into that dream, and I was the hero. You know what I mean? I fixed everything, and I was in complete control of that dream.
See, but you can definitely do it. But see, you almost got yourself into trouble, didn't you? By dreaming lucidly like that. And for you, the intersection between dreaming and remote viewing is very mashed together. And for you, see, you were basically dreaming in your dream body, remote viewing at the moon, snooping around, and you got caught.
I got caught.
But you know what I mean? Yeah. By beings that are able to, they're aware of this duality that we have. You know what I mean? You have a lot of people, I think, actually Carlos Castaneda keeps coming to mind. He had a teacher named, he called Juan Mattis, and another one named Juan Genero. And these shamans, Native America, actually old Mexico, around Oaxaca, I think they were from. Anyway, they would show up and start doing things. Sometimes their eyes would be really shiny, and he was scared of Don Genero. He said this guy started jumping around in waterfalls. He started levitating. He started doing things that were physically impossible. And Carlos Castaneda would lose control of his bodily functions. He couldn't take it. Oh! And they just laugh at him, say, "Man, you got to get more spiritual, But but in reality, he couldn't understand that these gentlemen were masters of the dream body. And half the time, these guys are somewhere else, crashed out, and it's their dream body interacting with him, teaching him. He can't put it together at first. You know what I mean? Sorry, I don't want to spoil his books for anybody that might want to read all of them.
Oh, no. Anyway, so those that astral project and people are able to see them, this is similar to astral projection, only maybe deeper or on a higher level?
I bet you that guy, I only seen a little bit of him on there that Lisa had turned me on to. He's been on your show, He's a brother too.
Ryan Cropper.
Ryan Cropper. I bet you he could say more about that. He's probably got a technique to do it solid.
Oh, I bet he does. He does that all the time. He's good.
Yeah. Some of us like me, I'm sorry, I only go so far out of my body as far as astral projecting because that self-preservation always snaps me back. You know what I mean? But I go out a little bit. But I mean, it's something that it's very tricky.
Mm-hmm. He seems very organized and all that. When I'm out there, I'm like, I don't know where I am, but I'm having fun. That's kind of how I do it. we had someone comment, if the firmament fell at some point in history, that would explain why in cartoons I watched in childhood there were often episodes about the end of the world, which was described as the sky falling down on people. They always leave messages about reality on TV.
Yes. Excuse me. Concerning that, and that kind of goes back to the cataclysm. There was another cataclysm, and the first one that I remember is when the hybrids kind of gained initiation into the temples and gained access to the technology. Now, most of this technology and a lot of these crystals that we might remember had the ability of converting matter into energy and energy into matter. The same way as Scotty beamed me down. The transporter does the same thing in a way. But these devices were used for anti-gravity, a lot for healing, you know what I mean? But they were also charged by basically not just orgone, but Kundalini energy. It's Kundalini and the handlers that charge these things and use them. The same way that people are becoming aware now that some of the, like the Roswell crash and other ones, the pilots were not just navigators, they were the power source. And, anybody that's watched Taken by Spielberg, I always recommend his books to anyone, or his movies. He had one called Taken that didn't do as good because it was on the Sci-Fi Channel. But on there, he gives out so many realities, even more than Close Encounters or any of those. But anyway, these devices, when the hybrids got control of these devices, they were hybrids. When I say they were part of the species that was known as the sons of God, then I've heard 1,000 names for that now. Anunnaki, this and that. A lot of them I don't prescribe to, but it was brothers, first of all, melanin-dominant black individuals, all right, with elongated craniums, all right. That germplasm is the one that I'm specifically talking to, and a project that went on with we would call the Sons of Men, there were humanoids here, humans like in Nubia and places like that, but you also had these apes, these Gigantolopithecus, the big ones, like 14 feet tall. You know what I mean? And then there was a hybrid project going on that we could call a biological uplifting of them. And then you had other species coming in here that weren't just black. You know what I mean? At that point. So that's what we're dealing with this. But when these hybrids gained initiation into these temples, see the energy, the Kundalini that powers these devices you're remembering something, aren't you? And here's what happens. When they got in, they tricked us to gain initiation. But once they got in, their carnal desires from the Sons of Men part of them took over and caused that technology to erupt. And when somebody watches the movie The Nothing, or the Never-Ending Story, remember what the main nemesis in that movie was what? It wasn't the rock guy. It wasn't the cute little flying dog. Do you remember the nemesis?
The Nothing.
Exactly, the Nothing. And the Nothing was doing what? It was turning Fantasia dissolving it into energy, from matter into energy. That's what it was doing. I think that needs to be closely watched. That's what happened on Mu. That's what started the first breakup. A lot of things started getting dematerialized. Some of that went up into the sky, came back down as sand and mud with the firmament. You've got the firmament, I think, got broken up in two things. Then you've got, once everything was split up, you've got Lemuria, you've got Atlantis warring against each other, using a tractor beam to bring the other moon into orbit and crush it and try to rain it down on Lemuria. And that messed up the firmament further. That caused the second cataclysm. Then basically Atlantis was left and the floods took that out at a later date. That's what I remember. And my lifetime was a long time. Then I died in basically back later when we call the Egypt times. I didn't last long after that. The hybrids got me. I kept speaking out and they dealt with me. So anyway, that's going another way, but that's what I remember. So that's that.
What about mermaids? Mermaids, mythical creatures like that.
You know, there was a show that the Animal Planet did about a year ago, 2 years ago, on mermaids, like a 2-part sequel, and it turned out to be a total fake.
They usually are. They try to deceive you.
That's a shame because there are actually 2 clips of footage on there that I question, maybe if they're not authentic. And one of them would be, it's like in the Baltic Sea, there's a net, and these guys that brought this net up look like they're probably codfishers or something, I don't know, but this thing is moving, and a hand sticks out, a webbed head, and then the net snaps and falls off. Now, I'm not saying it was real, but I'll tell you, that was a risky stunt for even a stuntman to do that one, and it looked pretty authentic to me. And we know that these come from another place. We've got other planets where we've got cetaceans that live there, similar to our whales, but different. Similar to our dolphins, but different. You know, there's a show, Star Trek Enterprise.
I've seen it all my life.
Okay, well, check it out. Check it out. You know, I'm in the one with the guy from, oh gosh, I didn't like that show, Quantum Leap. But that guy, Scott Bakula, the one he was in, Star Trek Enterprise, you seen it?
I think so. I'm looking for it.
in there's a race they call the Xindi. I think you can spell it Xinde. But they were aquatics. And what they did was they were, first of all, kind of agoraphobic, I guess, to a degree or something.
Mm-hmm. No, they're in Star Trek, you said.
Xenophobic, yeah. Xinde, Xinde. I think that's how they spell it.
Oh.
You see them? They look like turtles, something similar, but they had certain vessels and telepath and just similar things like that are represented all the time in science fiction that goes to being real.
Yeah, which one? Just all of them, pretty much.
There were 4 types of Xindis on like these 3 different planets. They're all supposed to be the same race, but broken into different parts. One would be the aquatics. I think they're somewhere on there. One would be the arboreals, and the other ones would be the aquatics. I do not see the aquatics represented on there.
Yeah, I wasn't finding them.
Yeah. But interesting nonetheless. I mean, just little things that come up that have some type of reality in them. And you know, but
that is really cool. And there's ones that look kind of like flies.
Yeah, but when you think, come on, be honest. When you think of mermaid, I guarantee you, half of the people hearing our voices right now, when you hear the word mermaid and the caricature that they see, I guarantee is Daryl Hannah.
I think you're right about that.
Oh, man. I think anybody under the age of like 35 wouldn't have got that joke. Anyway. Is
this a little closer? Did I find one?
Yes. That I believe that's a Xindi male.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. You don't normally see the bottom part of them. Normally it's only the top.
Oh, well, this was Google, so. That is cool. That is awesome. Holy crap, we got a lot of questions. The drones look like stars through a telescope is what I saw. That explains why some stars move randomly and blink in various colors. I've seen them too, and I photographed them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm like, why is it blinking weird? And Orion's belt. Like one time I went out and photographed Orion's belt, zoomed in, and it was like, those are friggin' spaceships up there. Those are not stars.
Well, you know, they've got, you know, we've got so many different types of craft out there also. You've got motherships that will appear to be Venus at sometimes, and people will call Venus in as a UFO because it's suddenly moving a little bit. Oh. And it's always written off by MUFON, everybody. Oh, that was just Venus, or it's just Jupiter. Yeah, you know when you see a star, they don't move like that, especially when you focus on it. You know, that's another technique to train your awareness, a stop technique to stop your world. Like when you stare at the moon for a little while, you ever notice how it starts jumping around? And you assume, oh, it's just my eyes playing a trick. Is it that, or is it your awareness and consciousness expanding and contracting?
So someone said there were 3 types of Xindis. They put up there.
The arboreals, the aquatics, and the avians, which will take us, I think, back to the Corey Good thing again. But we'll go into that later.
Yeah. Maybe the quantum thing explains Crow's lunar wave. Possible. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Crow 777 on the internet. So you know about the lunar wave that and there are two. You'll see one, and then another one will follow on it. And multiple people around the world have videotaped this lunar wave. So what are your feelings on that?
A quantum hologram. And what I mean, the moon is real and a real satellite by all means, but I think we're being masked from seeing what's really going on there and then lied to by NASA. Oh, wait a minute. I didn't say that, did I? Those guys are honest.
Oh, NASA.
I was just kidding. I was just kidding. Boy Scouts. Just kidding. But, but I think that we're being masked. Stop, Kelly. I'll start laughing. Forget what I was talking about. No, but I think that it's a projection we're seeing in that way to mask what's really on there. You know, when I was a kid, during my contacts, they kept telling me that the moon wasn't what it seemed to be. And, you know, being a kid, when I got done asking, is it made of green cheese? But they, I was just kidding. I was very young though, but I was got to go to the library, and in there I encountered a book that I think I've mentioned several times called Somebody Else is on the Moon. This is about 1981, 82. And in that book, this gentleman had pictures from NASA that he said were these tractors and type of different machineries in some of these mirrors on the moon. And that book just disappeared, and hardly anybody remembers it to these days. You can pull up a picture of it. You know what I mean? And later on, fast forward 10, 12 years, I start hearing Richard Hoagland talking about dark mission, the dark things, the stuff on the dark side of the moon, the machinery up there, what you and I could call what they've termed the soul catcher on the dark side of the moon, that large shard.
Sounds familiar.
That's about 60. I think that the NASA pictures show it's something like 6 miles off the ground or something like that. It's called the shard, and it's crystalline. It's in ruins. Now let's go a step forward, okay? The gurus like Paramahansa Yogananda and Sri Yarteswar, they used to talk a lot about how on the moon we incarnate, we come through the moon, and also we go back to the moon when we dream. A lot of us do, and use this portal on the dark side of the moon. All right, they called it the soul catcher. All right, now that would confirm to what Richard Hoagland's talking about. But now taking this to the dark aspect, you and I know we incarnate here. We come through a scalar frequency that wipes us clean, that we just dismiss it. There it is. That's the shard. It's got an interesting star-looking thing on the top of it.
Yeah. What the world? Hello.
Yeah. And you know, and it looks like it's in ruins. You know, I can't remember. He said it's like either 6 or maybe 60 miles off the surface. And he's found that he's got pictures of other ones too. Like not quite as massive as that one, but other ones. But you know, but that comes down to this. So we know that that's got something to do with a frequency we come through. All right. Now we've got the scalar frequency we talked about that starts at the rings of Saturn. Another book I was led to as a kid, they were telling me that the rings were messed up. I didn't understand what that meant. They kept saying it was basically an antenna. And Saturn does look like an antenna. I went to another book called, at the same time, it's called The Ring Makers of Saturn. A lot of people are familiar with that one now. But the guy is saying that there are huge ships out there mining and producing the rings themselves. All right. Now, these rings are producing what we would call a scalar frequency, as in Nikola Tesla technology. But this frequency goes from the Saturn, or the rings of Saturn, to Sidonia on Mars, and over to the dark side of the moon, and also to certain ancient sacred sites here on Earth. Okay, aiding us in being kept asleep. And what is so crazy about this, what I just described, is a process. When we come to this planet a lot on the soul level, and what these dark forces are doing to us. When our soul energy gets here, a lot of it gets electrical shocked. Okay, anyone wants to look up Wilhelm Reich and what he knew about orgone energy, and which is life energy, and the antagonistic effect that orgone has with electricity. Okay, and most of our soul is made up of basically prana, orgone energy. That is shocked. Okay, once that is electrified, we get basically the hypnotic suggestion, the white clean, and then sit here. All right. Now, are you with me?
Oh, yes, yes. I was showing you this real quick because you said something like an antenna. So I just found a picture of Saturn's rings, and I don't know what in the world that is. I've never seen that before. Holy crap!
You know that you know that's not good. I don't think that's good. You know what I mean? But anyway, so let's take this a step forward. I just described this two-step process. And we come here, we get electrified, then get hypnotically wiped clean, then sit here. But now I know something through what you've been doing with Implant and Eric. I enjoyed hearing him. I don't think it's a coincidence. He was on the show 2 days ago. Eric Reigns or Pilgrim, whatever he's going by now. But I mean, he's the real deal.
He tried to be like incognito, and it didn't work. So he's just going by his real name now.
Got blown out of the water, huh? Hey,
they found out.
That's why no one knows who I am. I was hiding my whole life. I wasn't telling anybody. Had I not died in that accident, I wouldn't be talking now. You know what I mean? But anyway, when he started describing this and what you described about implants, okay, it's very interesting because he took it to the scalar nanotechnology level, which includes these energetic implants. But then he described something, all right? And I caught it on the other interview he did before yours the other day. He described actually ones that are being these implants aren't coming from actually extraterrestrials or interdimensionals as much as they are basically, I don't have a better word for it, demons. Okay, and demons are tagging our soul when we come through this field with nanotechnology based on dark matter, dark energy. Okay, and then these are attached to our soul. But then when we go through the incarnation process, some of them I think become more dimensional, manifesting in us. I think that's some of what he saw in you, and and he said that sometimes being tagged when we first get here, before we get here, and you know. I don't know if it's an interview with you the other day or the other one. He described a ball, a small spear, a black spear.
Yeah, like a beach ball. Above.
He described that being placed about where New Agers would call the crystal cord, silver cord. Okay. That's placed about there. So that's brilliant. It can't be more correct. Yeah, it stops ascension, definitely. And all these little things attached to us. And, I used to think it was so much as when I started seeing auras in a different level, when I started being a vegetarian for a while, I tried to do it. Yeah. I started seeing auras. I was just trying to astral project, but I started seeing auras even more vivid than I could see them normally. And then I started seeing the shadows. And the shadows I can only see in my peripheral. Most people don't understand that the ocular, that wise, our peripheral vision, we see in black and white. So you can catch like these things in peripheral, especially on a shiny surface, like a mirror, like especially like a haunted house. What's wrong?
Oh, I was just experimenting while you were doing that. I was just looking at my peripheral vision for them, and my house is clear, so it didn't work. Sorry.
Actually, when you do that, that's what I had to get another doctor because it come down. It was time for a physical. He has a thing with a testicle deal. Okay, Mr. Wilton, what? What are you doing? Hey, Mr. Wilton, I don't think so, man. Anyway, just kidding. You're holding your head to hand like that. I'm just kidding. Anyway,
I'm a doctor. Trust me.
Yeah. Sorry, not gonna have you touching my balls like that, buddy. Anyway, I'm just joking. But as far as the tagging of the soul, though, and I mean, when we think about this fight between good and evil, even I myself want to think on the macro level, and we think of ships shooting at each other, kind of like on Star Trek or something, or maybe a pitchfork demon and an angel shooting light at him, and that being the fight. We don't think about the dark ops part of it, the insidious of it, and this nanotechnology and how sentient it is, all the way from what's being called the black goo to these implants that you and Erica are removing. You know what I mean? And it's a 3-part process. So when you and I were talking on the other day, and you mentioned that, for me, it was like the old Star Trek where Lurch was on there. The actor Ted Cassidy Lurch was an android. And Kirk's in there telling them, you know, you can't remember what happened to the old ones. You destroyed them, probably because they created too perfect of machines. And he looks over at Kirk, and he's just standing the whole time. And he goes, "That was the equation." And he started squeezing them. He goes, "Programming overrides humanity. You're flawed." But when you said that, that was the missing equation for me on this soul traps. I didn't want to deal with the immortal soul trap stuff, okay? That's not my vibration, but they're real. We've got to be aware of that. We have to be aware that if we're not meditated up, we're not in connection with the source, as it's being called, and our personal guides that are here to help us, our own angels. There's a chance that when we come out of sleep, out of death, it's like coming out of sleep, and we're kind of out of it. And right then, you have other beings that project false light to us, shock us again, hypnotize us, stick more implants to us, and send us back here and tell us, "Oh, you're on a special mission. Go back to Earth. You're going for a reason." But you can't remember that either. Now go back and incarnate. And let's just accept that.
Do you remember the shuttle Columbia?
Yes.
It blew up right over my head. I called my husband. I said, "I think Santa Claus just landed on the roof."
Well, Kristen McAuliffe, right?
That's how bad it was. I'm sorry, who?
Is that the one with Kristen McAuliffe?
Oh, no, well, the shuttle Columbia, just the actual shuttle blowing up.
Yeah, I mean, she was one of the astronauts on there, right?
Probably. I don't follow. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names.
Oh, she was a teacher.
But this is, I think, a drawing. Basically, I'm not sure if this was on camera, but basically, eyewitnesses saw a vehicle a sky vehicle that was going faster than the shuttle, and it blew it up. Basically, it attempted one shot, and then another. So there was UFO basically that was doing stuff like that. So there's a lot going on.
Well, you remember that the asteroid that hit Russia about 2 years ago?
Yes.
If you get online on YouTube, you can type it in, and there's also another one that's just coming in. There appears to be what looks almost like another meteorite hitting it and makes it explode. Mm-hmm. In reality, that would be something under cloaked holographic technology, somebody helping us detonating that, because there is a war going on with sentient space organism and Earth. Okay, they've been capturing, there's that Stardust at Home from the University of Berkeley. It's a website, the Stardust at Home. They might have changed the name of it, but it's the Siloagen bucket that was set up on that satellite and collected all this cosmic dust. And they sent it back to Earth, and they've been experimenting on it. All right, but on that website, you can actually find a dust tract. And if you can identify a dust tract, a new one, they will name one of these cosmic particles after you. So it's called Stardust at Home. At least it used to be called that.
I'm not finding it.
It's got a huge electron microscope that is looking in that Siloagen bucket. Last time I tried to get on it, it starts throwing me around a little bit too. But yeah.
Very interesting. What do you think about entities like Bashar or Cryon or magnetic service? If you know, could you explain what magnetic service is and what it does? I have no idea what that is.
Only magnetic service I had was on my refrigerator.
But like Bashar and all those. What's your take on that?
Bashar, I think, is very interesting. I'm going to be honest with you. All right, I'm very leery of all channeled.
Me too.
And I'll tell you why.
I caution everybody that it's, channeled beings or entities are just like, hey, you've got a friend. It is a good friend. Your friend tries to give you advice, but you're like, only part of that advice applies to me and the other doesn't, because it's kind of coming from their perspective. So just because it's channeled doesn't mean you believe 100% of what they say. There might be some good in it.
Well said. Well said. There's two things to keep in mind too. As far as dealing with that, we're dealing with inorganic beings, inorganic awareness. Okay. And in that way, we've got different classifications of it. One is we have Earth awareness. All right. We have sentient Earth awareness that's been here long before humanity. It can assume many ways to communicate with us. All right. Next is we've got, as you know, disincarnate people that are walking around down here. They can't break the veil of the materiality that's here. They can almost be phantoms to a degree. they're walking around, okay? But I tend to call the earth awareness and some of these disincarnate people like our first cousins sometimes, you know? And let's be honest, a lot of our first cousins don't like us, and they know exactly how to trick us. And we start dealing
Oh,
things with messing with Ouija boards and doing things, open up portals that we don't know who we're dealing with, or doing seances and giving energy out there, not knowing where it's going. You know what I mean? Especially the dark stuff. You know what I mean? And we don't know who's answering, and they don't really know who these beings are on the other side channeling. I'm sorry, I can only speak for myself. I've been criticized for that, but I spent a lifetime drilling the heck out of my own guides on who they were. Couldn't help it,
yeah.
and they told me, but I mean, the trust there, I had a problem with that because they're non-corporeal, most of them. They're non-physical, and let's face it, they could be liars. How many liars you meet down here? I could be lying to everybody right now. That's why I'm glad anybody wanted to hear me again, because the truth is I could be delusional. I could have chemical imbalances. Two, I could just be a plain liar, a good storyteller. You know what I mean? But if you resonate with what I'm saying, you'll feel it. You know what I mean? It's
Oh,
just
I
something.
do. I do. If you're lying, you're the best actor I've ever seen.
I wish I have a great deal better monetarily situation. Anyway,
Hello, Kelly and Barry. Could these beings prevent you from going to sleep for some reason so you don't connect with other realms? I can lucid dream and I have seen a blue guy in my bedroom, but I've been having sleepless nights since Saturday.
oh, that's interesting, isn't it?
I've had
The
sleeping
blue guy,
problems, lots of sleeping problems.
the blue guy again,
I know,
and
why
then
does the blue guy keep popping up, little booger?
but he keeps coming with negativity. This one does, and that concerns me a little because I'm part of the blue soul group, and a lot of the entities I've dealt with are blue. You know what I mean? But by the same token, it's like, man, they weren't negatives, and it's horrible that one is a blue that's coming in like that. Everything that you did on the blue man and before we met, everything I saw was negative, kind of the what that gentleman was saying and what he was experiencing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think maybe that's part of the projection we've been talking about, the false light. He's going, hey, come with me, come hang out. Bam, you get shocked, you get fed on a little bit, they get hypnotized, knocked out, tagged with the little nanotechnology, and hey, go on back.
Doesn't get more simple than that, does it?
I'm sorry, I had to deep.
This isn't very complicated at all. It's pretty simple.
But as far as her question, I would say yes. I would say yes. But you know, if it's something that's interfering with your sleep cycle like that, and she described getting negative vibrations from it, if you're getting negative vibrations, get rid of it. I suggest now through, like you're saying, the implant, protect yourself, get rid of it. If it's an entity that is bringing you discomfort, dissolve that relationship, get rid of it. And we are powerful enough to tell someone to get the hell out of here and they need to go. And when you say that, voice it. There's something about being in this corporeal body when we actually intone things and voice it, it does something. It seems to have even more impact. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Why is mainstream media so quiet about Fukushima? What might happen if we knew the truth behind it?
You know, first of all, it ruined my albacore tuna. I can't even eat that anymore. Last time I had sushi, I just sat there. No albacore, man. It's all probably infected. You know, I think because it's the worst man-made disaster in history, they're covering it up for that reason. And you know, even when I used to post something like it's still leaking and the amount of radiation that they were scanning for, people would chime in, I'm a fisherman over here, that's the lie, it's not going on, yada yada. Well, you can't see all the effects of it yet. Just like when Chernobyl happened, you can't see all the effects. Until now, you're seeing mutated species. And it's not coming up in the animals there as much as it is the babies that were born to the people that were exposed to that. You know what I'm saying? So these are things that aren't just, it's not showing yet. So they're hiding it. And this whole dark thing going on down here, I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's absolutely horrifying. I thought I was hip to most of the dark stuff going on, but I didn't understand the sinisterness of it and the way they're plotting against our consciousness in that way, and how much they're trying to keep everybody asleep right now. I mean, this is like the last feast, and it's horrible. It's, you know, but I think things are changing. The people incarnating here are coming with past life memories. They're coming with a different vibration. they're more open, and they're not accepting, excuse my language, the shit we're getting. Someone like, I don't go political, but if I see someone like Donald Trump on TV every day in the mainstream, actually getting anywhere in any kind of election like this, it tells me something. People are so upset with our own political parties that a clown can get in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's not
have a clown in office.
John Wayne Gacy's still in jail. Maybe he wants to be president, right? The killer clown. Jeez. Sorry, that probably wasn't very funny.
That's right. Darn it, Jeffrey Dahmer's dead. Oh well.
That's funny you bring that up. That is a prime sign of what I would call a negative inorganic being, a demon. And we have to accept something that a lot of this is a prison planet, and a lot of the souls that are incarnating here were some type of a criminal on the soul level at Galactic Central. You know what I mean?
That makes sense. Oh my gosh, that makes sense.
Well, let's think of it like Star Wars, okay? Basically, you got the Empire takes over, and they're controlling things. You got the Jedi, you get their asses kicked. They got sent to the prison planet along with the criminals, those rapists, those horrible degenerates. Mm-hmm. They got sent to the prison planet. That's kind of what this is where we're at now, I think. You know what I mean? So to think that a lot of these beings that come from the levels of consciousness that I've come to learn as the levels of fluidity, they're lower. You know what I mean? And when they come through, they're negative beings a lot of times. You know what I mean? And that is, they can incarnate just like you and I. And when I think of that, you just mentioned Jeffrey Dahmer. For my senior thesis, I had to do a deal on serial killers. So I watched, it's been a long time.
My husband has done a lot of study on serial killers. And I'm like, what do you do at night if I wake up here?
Man, they're going to watch us all. I tell you, I got off that subject pretty damn quick, let me tell you. But I watched that during that time. It was the interview that Jeffrey Dahmer did with Diane Sawyer.
I think I don't remember. I barely remember watching it. But
it's not long before he got murdered in prison.
Mm-hmm.
But he was very, and she, in my opinion, she's an excellent journalist. All right, she's very detached during her interviews, and during most of this interview, he's sitting up there kind of like this, and he's talking very meekly and like that, and seems very passive in a way. But at one point, he said, a lot of people have asked if I'm crazy, if I'm schizophrenic, and why did I do this? And he looked up and looked at the camera. He said, I'm not schizophrenic. I did it because it felt good. And if you let me go, I will do it again and again. And her face looked a lot like yours right now. And I had to stall the stuff and go outside and burn one. You know what I mean? I was like, man, it rattled me really bad. Because to me, what it was, and looking in his eyes, it was a demon telling you what it liked, what felt good, and what it was going to go back to now and when his body was done. And he was even carrying a couple of skulls to his work and put in his locker. And she said, why were you doing that? And he was saying, you don't understand. I was having control over their souls. When I ate their flesh, I was having control over their souls. And how demons historically have always manifested through the blood, through ritual sacrifice. It's, sorry, I don't mean to go dark, but these are just things to be aware of that need to be eliminated on this planet. If humanity's going to survive, people like Jeffrey Dahmer don't need to be incarnating as free as you and I do. It's my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is crazy. I was trying to find a picture of that interview when he did that, and I'm just not finding a picture. Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. It's all right. It's demonic. We probably don't need to be harping on that.
Yeah, it's just I think there's a reason I didn't find that picture. That's a good thing. Okay. Speaking of, we talked about yelling in the video where my words malfunctioned. I was interviewing Dr. Simon Adkins. I don't know if you're familiar with that video and what happened.
No, I'm not actually.
Yellen. Has to do with finances. She's one of the big ones. And she was doing a speech, and she, for the lack of a better word, malfunctioned during that speech. And she would talk normally and then just stop talking, and long pauses, then start talking again, long pauses. So when it was going on, I wasn't quite familiar with who she was,
Mhm.
but my husband was. So we were watching the video and I was listening to him talking about political, this, that, and the other. So I wasn't paying attention to auras, anything like that. But when I was talking to Dr. Simon Atkins, he said that he watched it and he looked at her aura, and at one point her aura disappeared. And so then I was like, well, he was talking. I looked up the video, and it was there. I found a 3-minute video. So I was watching the video, and while I was watching it, I was looking at her aura. I was seeing what was going on with her aura. And the first thing I saw was a false aura that started here. There was nothing in her body. It started on the outside and it projected out, and it looked pretty much like an aura. But I just, you know how you know, not by sight, but you just know it's not a real aura. You can feel that it's artificial. So I saw that. Then there was a disruption, like when you've got a certain frequency going with a wave, and suddenly you change the frequency and you've got this going on. Well, all of a sudden, I saw that around her like that. And then, boom, this lizard-like being appeared. And she was kind of like in the middle of it. And it was, I don't know how tall she is, but I'm guessing 10, 12 feet tall, possibly, this lizard-like being. And it doesn't look like anything. I can't find a picture that looks like it at all. I described it as part lizard, part dragon, but then it doesn't even look like a dragon. I don't even know how to explain it. It's just this big, a huge lizard-like thing that I saw. But here's the weird thing. When I was watching the video, the lizard knew I just call it a lizard. I don't know what to call it. It knew I was looking at it, and it saw me. And because of the help of Eric Rains, he helped me to put a shield around me that's impenetrable. And all of a sudden, when it saw me, I was surrounded. They couldn't get through the shield, but I couldn't see anything past that shield. There were so many of these lizard-like beings that came at me. And then I used, my instincts. Like, how do I get rid of them? So I pushed them away instinctively. I need to teach people how to do that. I pushed them away instinctively. So what is your experience, knowledge, have you read something? Have you experienced it firsthand? Seeing these that are the leaders of our planet, you know what, I say that term loosely, leaders of our planet, you know what I'm talking about, that have these, I wouldn't even call them reptilian, because these were not like draconians, anything like this. This was a prehistoric lizard looking thing that was huge.
You know, I would say this, taking this on more of a astral way as you described it, okay? What you described is something that from energetic level is not human. I mean, seriously, and I could say this, like when I first started really seeing not just a little bit more than auras, there's several auras that are around the human body, the colors, but then outside of that, there's a general shape that humans have. It's similar to like a cross between a mushroom and kind of an ovular sphere of types. But it's a general form that all people have. I started noticing when I could see spiritually, especially like a bigger city, like on a bus or something, and I could see or a crowd of people. Most when you see them physically, everything's fine, but you look spiritually, you see several of these mushroom type of some spheres, but all people, and in the middle there'll be a totally wrong form, an energetic form that's like an X with stuff coming off of it, or some sort of a triangle, or something of a very odd shape that is in the middle of a bunch of people. But then when you stop and look back with your regular third dimensional sight, all you see is several people there. See what I mean? Right in that place, there's a person there. So whoever that is appears to be a person, and that's the way our cognitive dissonance is perceiving them. But in reality, that is not a person. It's a different being that's walking around in a group of humanity. And what you described is quite similar. I know that some reptilian species have been in ancient Africa have been said to take over from the root chakras. When I've seen people getting attacked by these shadows, when I first started seeing that, and there were two types. The spherical shadows are smaller, very fleeting, but there were others that were ovular and a little larger. Okay, when I saw one attack someone, it attached to the crown chakra and elongated down to the root chakra and started pulsing. All right. So in that way, that's my experience with that. So I don't know. We're talking about dark forces. I noticed Eric said on that interview, most of the implants he had removed, he felt like were demonic, reptilian, and gray, is what he said. I find that interesting. That's somebody that's done hundreds of them. He's telling you that, hey, there's a faction there that is,
Hmm. I
does
was
that
trying
answer
to.
that?
I was trying to look at a picture, and I might need some help with this. I thought they were called Jolum, and I think I'm saying it incorrectly. Where there were lizard-like beings that took over the planet, and I can't remember if it was Tales from the Dark Side or if it was the Twilight Zone. I can't remember, but these lizard-like beings took over, and they made humans their slaves. And I think they call them like Jolum, and if I knew how to spell it, I could find it immediately. So that's what I'm trying to look for. So if you guys down there are with the questions, if you know what I'm talking about, can you please direct me to it so I can find a link to show these lizard-like beings? Because I think those look a little bit like this being, but I simply can't find a picture of it.
There's so many. There's so many that always comes up in science fiction, starting with Z. First of all, Captain Kirk, William Shatner. His worst battle was with what, a reptilian.
Okay.
On that planet. Okay, then you've got Z, or V. You remember V, the original V, especially with the guy from the Beastmaster. Those were reptilians. When they dropped their skin, they're reptilians under there. Remember?
Yes. Oh yeah, yeah.
Taking over humanity. You got. I mean, this the Slee Stack from
Land of the Lost. I watched that.
Yeah, old Slee Stack. Yeah, I used to watch that corny stuff. Yeah, it was great back then.
I thought it was awesome. I went back and looked at a clip, and I'm like, seriously, I believe that. It scared me.
Well, I'll tell you one that I thought resonated a little too deeply. Predator. That makes trophies.
I refer to that often.
Yeah. The reptilian that makes trophies of man. And saw by infrared heat. Found that interesting too.
Yeah, and when you look at it, it looks like heat waves. It's a disturbance of air. And I saw a lot of beings when I was younger. I can see them. I can still see them now, but I repelled them, so I don't see as many. Only when I kind of want to bring them in and like do stuff. But I saw those. I saw those beings that were like Predator, and I keep referring to that movie to describe to people. I could see its general shape, but no details. I've seen those.
Yeah, and you know what they were doing? They were bending light. That again is that holographic invisibility technology. We just talked about a 3-part of those drones. One of them is invisibility. So that's something they were playing around and throwing out there to us a long time ago. And now they've got a thing called metamaterial that produces a certain invisibility cloak. I've also been on board some craft that convert like life energy, like from water, they can convert life energy and pull orgone prana from that. But a byproduct of this process the engine makes is a type of light fog, a mist. And they use that for cloaks sometimes. And we call them lenticular clouds. Not all lenticular clouds, or the others I've seen, that whenever you see a small cloud that has a small rainbow in it, just like a band or two of rainbow in it, that is not what it appears to be. That is definitely a byproduct of that engine and that conversion process I just admitted. That's also why you see a lot of USOs floating over the water doing that.
That's interesting. I took a bunch of pictures of those, and it's really funny. I don't know if you'd call it cognitive dissonance, but you talk to people about, here's this partial rainbow, and then here's another one like this, and up in the clouds, and they're like, oh, they've always been there since I was a kid. I'm like, no, this is a new phenomenon. Like the guy, I'm not going to say, he has a military background, down the street, one of my neighbors. And, I was talking about, I wish it'd stop chemtrailing us. What are you talking about, chemtrails? And, oh no, it was like that. And he's older than my husband, no, it was like that since I was a kid. Like no, it wasn't. No, you didn't have these trails that stayed there forever and then filled the sky when you were a kid. No.
A lot of people are getting the cloud busting right now, and you don't really need the apparatus, the cloud busting machine to do it. You can do it.
I teach people how to do that, how to dissipate clouds like men who stare at goats. So everybody go to that video and you'll see how to do it.
Have you disrupted the beings that will show themselves from the clouds yet when you dissipate one?
I didn't get that far.
They haven't popped out on it yet. If you start doing ones that are like nimbus clouds, thunder clouds, which are dangerous because we can only absorb so much orgone that we get overcharged. But you'll start seeing beings coming out of the clouds themselves that are feeding on what's called DOR, dead orgone radiation.
Uh huh.
A lot of those would start accumulating around the cloud busters themselves before they got cleaned out. And
Hmm.
a lot of them tend to look like, if you take pictures of them in infrared, they look like amoeba and flagellum. Oh, excuse me, flagellum. Also,
Hmm.
rods look like flagellum, if you notice that. The rods they catch. Anyway,
I'm still. Someone put golem. GOLEM.
isn't
That might be closer.
isn't that
I,
isn't that the
and
one?
I'm getting a weird creature, so I don't think it's that.
That's the clay guy that's supposed to
Oh,
protect the Hebrew tablets, isn't it? Yeah, that's the
yeah, because
golem.
I'm getting
Yeah.
creatures that don't look at all like what I'm trying to find.
I think on Supernatural they did an episode about the golem. Dean Winchester. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something like Jolin or God, I can't remember, but I looked at that before, but I'm not.
I keep getting information. There's an important question you're seeing. What is it? I keep getting this for about the last 15 minutes. Is there an important question somebody asked? The spirit is tagging me on here.
I'm not sure, but there's one at the top. What about the idea of a staged alien invasion? Well, I had a question too, because these beings, the three that were like the ones that you say bend light but look like heat waves, they were probably like 12, 14 feet tall, and I couldn't tell if it was just a human body type thing that was kind of like that, or if it was a snake-like body. Couldn't tell. They had wings, but I could tell that they could kill easily. Like they were very strong and dangerous, but I knew they wouldn't hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of confused as a child. I'm like, okay, if they have wings, they've got to be an angel, because I was Baptist, so it had to be angels. But why was I getting this feeling of they can just annihilate anybody and anything at any time? So
That's part of it. In contact, especially the younger we are, we tend to use cognitive dissonance to understand things. Like a lot of times I didn't know I was having contact. I thought that was happening to a lot of people. Like I was born with past life memories, but I thought everybody probably had them. And there was a reason why school was still talking about Christopher Columbus and conquistadors instead of what happened during the cataclysms. I kept waiting for them to get to that in school, and then they never did.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I had to get older to understand that one of the kids that would come around and hang out, I thought he was a kid. He'd come hang out with me when I would do things like, I was so supervised when I was a kid. I was never far away. I was never out of sight hardly. But I was allowed
Same
to go
here.
outside and make like little dams to stop the water from going down when people are watering their grass.
Mm-hmm.
Just come and like build dams with me sometimes. And he rode like a really old school Swin bicycle, and he always had a backpack on, and he had these sunglasses on all the time. And I kind of understand now, but I thought he was just a kid. At least he was kind of pretending to be. He was playing with me. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And conveniently, whenever my parents would come out or anybody would come around, other friends, he just suddenly had to leave before they got there. He'd jump on his bike and take off. You know what I mean? One day he came to the park, my school, and he came like he was in the yard after school. Nobody was supposed to be in there if they weren't from our school. And he had stopped a kid from pushing me off the slide. And so I came down, I was talking to him, and he's like, I want to show you something. And nobody was out there then, all right? He runs and he jumps, okay? And when he jumps, I can only describe him as the way, if you've seen a ladybug, you know how they've got a hard shell?
Yeah.
When their wings actually come out, the little black wings come out from the bottom, and you can still see their hard shell on the top.
Yes.
Before they spread it. His backpack looked like that, and his little wings came out from underneath, and he jumped about probably 10 or 15 feet, maybe 12 feet as I was a little kid. And it scared me half to death. He came back over, and he said, what do you think about that? I said, I think you're some sort of bug. Get out of here. Don't ever come back. And he never did. But, I mean, it's to the point of sometimes we're having these deals where people are waking up not in their bed at night, and a lot of star seeds now are having kids. This is happening to them, and how to deal with this, how to isolate it. And we have to understand how subtle contact is. For me, I wasn't satisfied until they come in the sky and stop my whole world, and I lost all this time. But some of the other things that were more subtle, I wasn't accepting. And I've said it before, I think I said it here last time, anyone that's seen like a UFO, something they think maybe wasn't government related, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying that word, any Big Brother related, they even lost a few minutes. It is worth getting a hypnotic regression, going and talking to a good hypnotist, find one you can get a rapport with before you pay all that money. Make sure it's the real deal. Get your sessions recorded, but ask questions. Designate the time you're trying to retrieve. Did you get super conscious information where you're watching this thing? Nobody wants to think, Kelly, that a whole Star Trek Federation of United Planets could be coming together to contact one single person. All these legions of beings coming together, millions, to contact one person, you. That's exactly what's happening. That's what first contact really is. That's why some people can't even see these ships in a crowd of people. You got 2 people that can see them, 4 or 5 that can't. Where? It's not their frequency. It's not their resonation. Their resonation. I'm sorry. You know what I mean? They're not at that frequency. And even then, we have to be aware that since we don't understand our consciousness, we don't understand bubble theory, we don't understand our existence, all right? There's a good chance that some of these ships we're seeing aren't just time travelers, they're us looking at ourselves when we've reached the Merkaba and we've made ships ourselves. We can become ships, the ones that other beings are sentiently trying to talk to and communicate with. See, and we don't think of that we could turn our dream body into a spaceship. But this goes this heavy. It's that heavy.
Wow. Man, I got some homework to do. I'm so excited.
You've been doing it. I mean, you taught me something, I don't know that much. I've had these crazy
experiences. I'm sorry, you said you don't know that much.
Not that much, really. Oh, I can make it look cool on cyberspace. Like I know all this stuff. That's easy, man. Anybody put stuff off the internet. But I'm just a brother that had a bunch of crazy experiences from childhood till now, including dying, and I can't explain them all. I tried to find a lot of literature to back up what I was experiencing, and it didn't always work, so I started broadening out, you know what I mean? That kind of deal. It's just food for thought most of the time. You got so many viewers that are so much heavier than me. Believe me, some of the people that have contacted me after the last one we did, they're asking me questions. I'm like, shit, I should be asking you. You know what I mean?
And that's the cool thing, because you and I are no better than anybody else. We're just probably dumb enough to go out and talk to people about.
Hey, worse than that, I screw up all the time. I wasn't even smart enough to wear my seatbelt. I'm the poster child for wear your seatbelt, click it or lose it. I took 4 brain injuries because I wasn't wearing my seatbelt. So I'm not that intelligent, believe me.
This is just, we're all helping each other, and that's the point. Is we're all helping each other. We all have a piece of the puzzle to fit this together, and no one is more important than the other one. Everybody, even if they look like they're like, oh, Kelly, you're so important. No, but I'm going to wake up the ones that are important, and they're going to go out and do things.
Oh, definitely. I think you're going to get real proficient at the implant removal too.
I'm excited
to see how that goes. That's different. I've had so many people come forward to me privately about certain individuals saying, man, this person charged me, that person charged me, and they said they were going to do these implant removals. I have an implant, but I don't think it's physical. And they did it, and I still feel terrible, or I felt worse. You know what I mean? And saying that, and when listening to Eric talk, he was talking about, that was the other interview he did before yours. He was talking about a Reiki person that was working on him and teaching him, and he noticed they had an implant on them, and one that he described as almost a type of black tentacle, and said they were using that to disseminate nanotech to people, and they didn't even know
I've seen that now. Yeah, I've seen that.
Man, what? Oh, and those people that are unaware of it. Maybe you know what I think, Kelly? I think we should go into what you and I were talking about 2 days ago concerning the phone and everything, because I think that's really heavy, and I think a lot of people need to hear it.
Okay, go for it.
Remember? Okay. This is what goes down, and this is information I first heard from it's Dr. Linda Moulton Howe that had brought this up. Really like her work, all right? But she mentioned this once on Art Bell years and years ago, but then it's come back up now. Okay, she's talked about getting contact in the 80s from 2 masseuses, all right? who had a very similar experience, but they're across the country from each other. All right. And this would being they had clients come in, and you have to deactivate your cell phone and everything. But when you're working on a client, when they're working on their client, they're seeing out of their back a holographic gray alien come out of the back and kind of looking around. All right. And they've seen it, and it's looking around for a minute, and they say it's very discernible, and the person they're working on is totally unaware of it.
Yes, yesterday what came out was mantis being. I saw a mantis being in I had a male and a female that I worked on yesterday. The male was in person, and I saw the mantis being come out.
Goodness,
and look around.
We'll tie this in. How interesting is that? All right. Well, okay. So the lady says that sees this one is looking around. She's tripping out. You know what I mean? And she says this lady's cell phone over on the counter there makes this odd noise that sounded like metal scraping. All right. And it was deactivated. It was turned off, period. And it made this metal sound, and this holographic gray alien went back into her bed, levitated back down. And she said it almost appeared that the cell phone had emitted some sort of frequency that was like a cage, and caged that thing back up. Like, hey, you're at a cage, and pulled it back in. Okay. Now let's take that and turn that into something else. There's been a lot of people reporting for a few years the mystery booms. And part of these mystery booms, some people say, almost sounds like trumpets, trying to think it's revelations. But in reality, they're saying it sounds like metal scraping sounds. Some of these large black TR3B looking things, the black triangle UFOs, some of them have been seen, and after that, the metal scrapings being seen. All right. Now, let's take that and turn this to a different deal. Something you just said. I've been listening to a couple experiencers who have had contact with mantid beings. All right. And these also are individuals who've been having sexual encounters in their bedrooms with alien females, extraterrestrial females that perceive.
That's not something I asked. So
no, I'm serious. I mean, they've had this happen during their contact. Then they're on a ship, okay, and there's a mantid being there they're dealing with, and then the mantid being will bring out this human woman and say, "We know you're comfortable with her, but actually, she's going to help inhabit your consciousness, and this human-looking being will turn into a orb and invade the experiencer's chest while they're on one of the beds." Okay, so we're talking about cohabitation of consciousness, and we know that some of these grays are bio-androids, that their consciousness can be transferred. We've got soul transfer technology. A lot of experiencers are dealing with that, saying I have a copy of a body there, and they transfer my dream body, my energy body there, my consciousness there, and it's some type of an automaton there. So that's something you've got going there. So what you've got is cohabitation. Now I'm saying this, all right, and with the implants and what you said about the implants, and some of us being tagged when we get in, so we know some of these tags before we incarnate allow these shadows I just spoke about to feed on us, and now what? To allow some of these bio androids to project their consciousness into a physical human body to share cohabitation with us so they can get sentient experience. If you've met any of this here on Earth, they don't do very good here. They can't consciously do what humans do. They stick out. I've talked about the charters I've met that come around every 7 years. The last one I met he appeared to be a Caucasian guy, a little short guy that was wearing big sunglasses. And he was just, he thought he was cool, but I'm telling you, anybody right now, in whatever year that was, 20, whatever.
Are you there? Oh no, he froze. Barry, are you there?
Which is, I'm here.
Crap. You froze when you started talking about the sunglasses and the Asian, and if you see, and then you were gone.
The entity? Oh, wow. I mean,
you froze. You were gone when you were talking about that.
When I said kitty cats, my mom used to wear those things like back in the 60s called kitty cats. He was wearing a pair of those, and he looked like he thought he was cool. I mean, he just was odd. It was more like somebody that was not around people very much. You know what I'm saying? Had a great vibe to him. Don't get me wrong, great vibe and everything, but it was just he was off. in that way. But anyway, that would be one of these things. So so what we're talking about as far as the masseuse thing is invasion. And I say why I say that. Linda Moulton Howe did that interview about probably 3 weeks ago, and she did another one like a few days ago on Art Bell, I think, or one of them. Anyway, she said that after she did that interview, the first time she's ever mentioned that with the masseuse, she's gotten contacted by hundreds of masseuses like around the world saying they've seen this. They've seen this holographic projection while working on clients. So that makes it almost more of a phenomenon. And she said she was by no means expecting to ever get that kind of response. So I'm asking you like this, with the implants and what Eric's doing, what you're doing, with the knowledge of this 3-stage immortal soul trap I've mentioned, is this the big part? Is that an invasion we're looking at? I've not dealt with grays. I've not been experimented on in none of the missing time, none of this stuff, all right? And I have met a being that's insectoid, but he wasn't a mantid, all right? And so I don't know where this begins and ends. And you've got people out there listening that can tell you a heck of a lot more than me. But that to me sounds like an invasion. I'm certainly not giving permission for anyone to use my consciousness, and they will not. And secondly to that, you've got, how can I say it? The sexual connotation that comes along with a lot of these abductions and the negativity of it. And I believe we've got negative inorganic beings, demons, which are basically using screen memories of alien abductions and things like that to rile our emotions and feed on us. I think that's been going on a long time. These implants is one of the main ways they're doing it. I mean, it's so subtle. I thought about, alien implants. And when I thought of implants, like you and I were talking about privately, I thought about the metal ones, the ones that Dr. Lear has pulled that they can actually do experiments on and can tell you what gauze it's at and what it's resonating at, things like that. I didn't give as much solidity to the energy implants until I heard how Eric was describing them. I mean, he was nailing that. And it was telling me things that's going back like, wow, that was part of what happened with the dark sets during the hybrid project. They were doing that stuff then. So anyway, just food for thought. I don't want to always stick on the negative thing, but I think knowledge is power, and being aware of this is a way for us to break that cycle, getting unimplanted, getting protected, using our awareness, realizing we're more than what we think we are. But as far as that masseuse thing, I mean, that's frightening, I think. That's insidious.
Oh, it is.
The taking over of bodies like that, and in that type of a fashion. And we've long since heard about walk-ins. One of my good friends that's deceased now, Timar, wrote a beautiful book called Travel the Winds. She was a walk-in. She had a walk-in with her. And sometimes you would be talking to her and she'd just go like this. And then she'd start talking like a little girl.
Oh.
And at first, as a psychology, I was getting my psychology degree, and I think, well, wow, she's got MPD, multiple personality disorder, being covered up by new age crap. Until I really got private, and she started being able to tell me things about my contact experiences she never would have known when she was this little girl. The little girl's telling me, you can go up there physically if you want. It doesn't all have to be astral. I had already been trying to do that, but they wouldn't come back like that until I became an adult. They lost all this time and screwed up my life. Anyway. Sorry.
You're gonna find this kind of weird. Google is interfering with you. And is there any way that you can leave this and come right back into this and see if it fixes it?
Yeah, sure.
And then I'll read through some of the questions for them while you do that.
Why, we've been getting plagued by technical difficulties this whole time.
I think there's a reason for that.
Wow.
so I'm so sorry. I'm having to manually switch back and forth. So
okay, just hang up and call you back.
Okay. Yeah. Just come right back. Just click the link and come right back.
Gotcha. No problem.
Oh, no problem. Goodness. Okay. Hey guys, while he's doing that, I was trying to look for this. I don't know why this is so important, but that let's see. Do any of you remember the name? And it's like Jolum or something like that. That they called the humans that were the slaves. I am so trying to find that. I don't know why this is so important that I find that picture. It really, really is important. Because you remember that there were lizard-like beings, and then the way that they killed him was basically he poured something into his bath water and it became like a solid, and he had his hand stuck down in and he couldn't get out. Anyway, that, not to do like a spoiler on it or anything, but whenever whenever he was taken out of power, the one that was supposedly in power, what happened was it was just another one of those lizard-like beings that took over the planet. So that reminded me so much of our system right now. It doesn't matter who put in charge and take them out thinking something better is coming along. It's just another one of them taking charge. So I was like, I was telling them about the lizard-like beings in that Twilight Zone or Tales from the Dark Side. I can't remember which one it was. But when they killed the lizard-like being, because it was like, the humans are going to take the planet back. And so they had the humans, working on it. So they killed the lizard-like being that was in charge, only to find out another lizard-like being from another faction was taking charge of the planet. And it was not the humans, tricked the humans into thinking that they were going to be in charge, if they kill this guy. But no, just another one came in his place.
Oh, wow.
I wish, and I can't find them. This is driving me crazy.
I'm just glad we got back. That's interesting. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to click back in like last time.
And it's not working still. It's not going back and forth. Something has failed. So I'm just going to have to manually click when you talk, and I apologize that it's not going.
You want me to try it again? I can click off and come back again.
No. We'll try and work with it. Not a problem. Someone had asked, what about the idea of the staged alien invasion, which has been talked about by a doctor, I forgot who it was, that was talking about that. He's warned us that the government is behind the alien abduction, or the fake alien, or the staged alien invasion. But that the government has been behind the alien abductions.
I think they're in association with another league, several different leagues, and I think that went awry. A lot of things we've heard, so I would say yes. And saying that because I said much time, my experiences have been all positive. I've not been abducted. I've not been experimented on. I've not been in the midst of a bunch of little grays and a lot of reptilians. So that's one thing there. You know what I mean? But I would say that as far as a false invasion, there's a thing going on right now, and I'll say this real lightweight, but there's a thing right now about the blue avians that's going on a lot. And I don't personally resonate with the blue avian thing at all. I do resonate with the bird tribes and different things that go with melanin dominant contact with that and shape-shifting in that. But as far as the ancient bird tribes, the blue avians, I don't know them to be a part of that. And what concerns me when I first was aware of that, I was told the individual discussing it, one of them kept talking about they were using a type of scalar technology to shut off our solar system and stop all communications from going in, but especially from going out. Now that is something that is called the Hauser Tesla Hauser interferometer. All right, that's basically
that's like about a $200 word right there.
Well, let's take it a little easier. The death ray. The Tesla death ray, which also
now we're back down to $5. I think we can understand you now.
It can also be turned and contrasted into the Reagan Star Wars program. Remember that?
Yes.
The Star Wars program was supposed to be able to disintegrate something from Earth, a target in space, but also be turned into a repulsive force field that would stop anything from leaving the planet as well. Okay? Now, what this information, the technology the blue avians are discussing are that scalar technology that's capable of that. So when you're talking about things from not escaping, are we talking about just communications, or are we talking about immortal souls? And is that part of the deception that everyone's getting? I'm sorry, why are they using scalar technology? That implies to me that they're trying to keep souls here. Not just keep people asleep, keep people here. And I know they come with this whole thing. Everybody's saying, "Oh, love and light, blue avians, love and light." Yeah, that's a good screen memory. Okay, we don't know that that's really their deal. And look, I'm not saying I'm correct. I'm right now reaching out because there may be a bunch of experiencers that have had contact with these blue avians. I have not. And I'm hearing now that they can just be these blue spheres and they're only pretending to be avians, that they're just projecting that they're actually something else. Okay, all fine and good, but the vibration's not gone away. I'm getting a bad vibration from that. And I've dealt with a lot of beings. I've dealt with an alliance, and none of them have been those beings. All right, that doesn't mean that's not true. There's so many out there now, you can't tell anymore. But the beings I've dealt with deal with 16th dimension and up, and things like they say sectors of spaces and beyond nanospace. They say half of them are interdimensional, and it's hard to understand. It's hard to always classify these things, these beings, when sometimes you're dealing with realms of consciousness.
Exactly. Exactly. Ugh. It's so very complicated but simple at the same time.
Yeah. Hey,
we only have 300 questions over here.
We're touching real quick on the Blue Avian thing. The individual that talks about that, which is Corey Good, I think a lot of what he says is correct. I don't resonate with everything he says, all right, but there's a definite truth factor there. And when he starts talking about the secret space program, I'd say there's some credibility there. He goes more in depth of it than a lot of other whistleblowers I've heard. What I would say I question some things is that I think he's been subjected to something that came from Zeta Reticuli, which is called a jump room. And they're also calling that.
Yeah, I've heard of that.
Mm-hmm. You can also call them synthetic quantum environments. All right. And for those of us that like Star Trek, we could kind of call it an advanced hollow room, or maybe even stellar cartography, how they made that look. You know what I mean? And I think that you get exposed to that jump room, you might not always know what is reality and what isn't. And I think that's somebody, Corey might get exposed to that a lot. But he started talking about things as getting scanned by certain types of nanotechnology. I think he was right on the money with that. And he also discusses the inner Earth civilizations, that he calls them breakaway Earth civilizations. I think that's pretty good. A lot of that I resonate with. I have a problem with he's saying, "Oh, the real advanced black people are from there," and he doesn't want to say they're from the stars. There's a problem with black people and melanin dominant individuals coming from the stars. And when I brought that up on the internet, on Facebook, I've got attacked a few times. People don't seem to like that. Everyone wants the star beings, especially the Pleiadians, to look like Fabio, Christy Brinkley, and Michael Bolton before you cut off that hair. You know what I'm saying? When in reality, they don't want to say melanin space is melanin dominant. It's pure black. And when you go out there, you get a lot of black people with elongated craniums. That used to be here before. That doesn't seem to want to be discussed. But what I'm liking about some of these interviews, and especially doing this on your show, I've had black experiencers come forward to me and communicate with me. I had a couple who got mad at me, but they're kind of sellouts. We won't talk about that. Anyway, but seriously, but a lot of black experiencers came forward to me, and it's been a blessing, and it's been very encouraging, because that's one reason I talked, is where I kind of live in a small town, but there was like nobody to talk to. Hey, I think I'm seeing extraterrestrials. I'm getting taken away at night. Hey, I got telepathy. Hey, I have past life memories. You don't really say that in the black community as much. That's something that's becoming much more prevalent now, which is beautiful, and it's happening through mainstream, through cyber communication. So I don't have to just be isolated in the country. I can talk to other brothers that have experienced stuff.
That is so cool.
It's real cool. So I thank you for that. You and Peter Maxwell Slattery brought that into my life. So I thank you for that.
Aw, that's so sweet. I'm still over here searching. I finally got to the end of the questions.
Oh, sorry, I interrupted that. Okay. Sorry.
Oh no, that's all right. I was just.
I have some pictures too. I have some pictures for some people too, for once, for the first time.
This one got 17 pluses, so a bunch of people want to know about this. Many sources are talking about the year 2017 being a major year for humanity. Do you see it being a major year as well? If so, why?
I'm going to say this frankly, all right? I mean not to insult anyone's views. Since I've been aware, I have heard, excuse my language, I have heard so much bullshit dates. And before it was just November 15th. And it was, when I first started hearing this, it was 8/8/88. That was the big day, going to be contact. Then it was Y2K. Then it was 2012 because the Mayans that were practicing blood sacrifice said so. And there's always time. Everyone wants this change and the shift we're going through to be a light switch. when in fact it's a journey and it's taking time. You know what I mean? And it's very, so I would say that day, no, it doesn't do anything special for me. And I think that right now, first contact is happening. Probably who's ever asking that question, they get even more than like, oh, okay, let me throw this in. When I tried to like do self hypnotize myself, do meditation to recover missing time, I thought it was Mr. Conscious Experiencer and I could remember some stuff, but I couldn't seem to pull these memories. I had to go get regressed by another professional. You know what I mean? And then that is how subtle this might be. First contact itself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer that at all?
I think it did.
I feel like I totally kind of missed it, but I mean that could be a prevalent day. But I think we've got those first cousins we just talked about, giving us a lot of false dates, and a lot of them are incorporating disaster. I'm sure you've noticed that. This will be the date of disaster, and that puts more people's vibration, attention on negative outcomes, which I think kind of moves us to a negative timeline. There's a couple of timelines out there, but I think that one kind of moves us to a negative one, which is what they're going for. You know, these implants, Kelly, that you're removing and Eric's removing, they start off by starting negative thoughts. Once they start the negative thought processes, these beings can create negative situations in our lives, invade people we know, and you see people you know start talking crap to you for no reason. You can see little mucus coming out of their eye. That's ectoplasm. They're yelling at you, spitting. That's ectoplasm. You know, where's this coming from? You know what I mean? That's demonic possession. These are things that keep us feeding them. You know what I mean? I mean, we don't want to think. Nobody wants to think because we've got our great concrete jungles. We don't have to be out in the forest all the time. That we have no natural predators. We do. They're just beyond mortal vision.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So the day I can't say anything. The day I could that may be the day I could probably walk outside and see a big ship and say, "This is the day." Maybe Vulcan Surrey comes down and says, "Hey, peace and love." But more than likely, it's just going to be another day. Yeah, more likely it's going to be another day we go to work and pay more bills, and that's all that happens. But I think that the contact is definitely advancing. It's just not as fast and given the dates that we've been told. You know what I mean? So I kind of steer away from dates as much as I do trying to pick lottery numbers.
Now, this is, you mentioned something about goo or something coming out of someone's eyes. And I didn't know if this would be significant or not. I've found in my backyard a transparent gelatinous substance that looks like what the internet calls star jelly. What do you think that is? Is it dangerous? What is your opinion on that?
You know, I'm not as familiar with star jelly as much as I am panspermia. Panspermia tends to look a little more like angel hair. When you see angel hair floating in the air like that, you know. And the black goo looks like that, in my understanding, black goo. Now, I have seen, I think, Ashley Hinton and maybe Annette, actually, again, Annette Lemur. They sent me something about some red substances being found like outside of tunnels or something. And, you know, and in my opinion, that might go back to the war I was speaking of. And I speak of that because the war that they've been experimenting on biological microscopic life forms from space. And when you start dealing with something like Star Trek and a collective consciousness, and we realize many of these beings are as sentient as us, and you're grabbing like, oh, maybe a couple of million of them, send them back to Earth, let's throw some radiation on them. That's war. And I think these beings are responding. I think that's why we've got some of the chemtrails. They're trying to stop it. They're trying to fight it. And I think they're spraying stuff to try to fight that. But we've got things that are cropping up down here on Earth, like the red rain in China. That's
exactly one.
You remember one I brought up, mad cow disease. I think that's a big one. And someone just said, I never heard of that. I said, don't you remember mad cow disease? But that just died out. How did it just die out? You just didn't hear about it anymore. Where did mad cow disease come from? That was using the prions of our own body and turning our own stuff against us. You know what I'm saying? And I think that is a war coming from space. Not against all of us, but I mean, I don't think they're trying to target people like this was World War II. I think it's, hey, you grabbed a bunch of us and we're going to fight back. And you can at the same time get individuals right now trying to go out and mine asteroids and bring more of this material back here and bioengineer it maybe into Ebola or something like that and turn off on black people in Africa. But hey, whatever. That's no one likes to talk about that stuff. All the governed patents that we have for the cure of AIDS and Ebola and all these other things that people don't even know about. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. We've got, you want a little comic relief?
Yeah.
It's not a question. Kelli, I love your interviews, but stopped watching because you eat candy. I can feel your brain chancing. I'm worried about their brain. Chancing, and it knocks me out. And I want to leave the interview, and your voice changes, and I can hear you eat it. I have really sensitive ears. I am so sorry that you have sensitive ears for my eating candy.
What is it?
I don't know. What do you call this? This is not really candy. It's like 1 calorie, and it's got stevia in it, natural peppermint oil. So,
it's interesting. I've noticed that, and it's been coming your way about the last couple of weeks really bad. Man, what is it with all the hate? What is it with all the attacks?
No, right?
I mean, if you don't like somebody saying that's cool, but I mean, some of the stuff that people were putting up towards you was stuff that wasn't even hurtful towards anyone, but it's just attacks. Attack. That's the problem down here. We've got something that Rupert Sheldrake calls the morphogenic field, or we could make it even a little more like TV and call what Yoda in Return of the Empire called the Force, really, when he described it. All right. And the morphogenic field of Earth and that's the field that comes out, which makes the field of the planet, the morphogenic field. Now, on Earth, you've got one of hate, of murder, mine, and these negative things. And what's that doing is that's saturating our planet, and it's been calling out between that and the physical damage. It's been calling out to its mother star, its parent star. And the parent star has started acting very erratic and starting giving solar prominences, solar flares, different things of that nature that remote viewers have been seeing for a long time, like Major Ed Dames and then the bow shot and the kill shot. And that's one timeline I've seen too. So I hope we can miss that one. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
A lot of those remote viewers saw that too. They saw something coming in our atmosphere that they're coming close to Earth that tilted our access to where the solar flares were able to come in much more and knock out our power grids. But at the same time, when all this war is going on down here from no power, something else comes in the atmosphere and blacks everything else, and Oddright puts down their weapons and goes home to their loved ones. A lot of remote viewers saw that, and I think that comes down a lot to it only takes 1 or 2 of those Legion ships just to show up here for a second or two. And they emit a frequency that is like a vibration, that a bass that kind of nullifies fear to a certain degree. That's how I was able to go through my contact. In fact, I'll show you something real quick.
Yeah, you've got some sketches.
Yeah, these are for a book I've been trying to write. But given it that I had 4 brain injuries, sometimes I don't concentrate all that great. I just want to get up and go run around instead of typing on the computer. Anyway, Christine Dennett has done several sketches for me concerning my experiences, all right? This is an engine, all right? I'll try to show it. It's much larger than would appear on here. The crystals inside of it were about 9 feet tall, all right? And it looked like it was wrapped by something that looked similar to copper. Now, these crystals that she couldn't get on here, but they emit like a pinkish type of yellowish light from inside, like a chemical bioluminescence, all right? Now, when it gets activated, these crystals start spinning, all right? Like so fast you can't see them. And it produces a light and a really deep hum, all right? A bass hum. Now, one of my guy that was on that experience is floating there, and he's telling me this engine doesn't just power planetoids and motherships. He said planetoids. It also, or it does. I'm sorry, it doesn't just power motherships and Legion ships. It can power small planetoids, and it also, the sound it produces, it also can heal human flesh, not just the astral body. I was a kid when I saw that engine. and I didn't know what the hell to make of it. You know what I mean? I could tell you what it sounded like, what it looked like, and how big it was.
Interesting.
But when I look at our science now, they have something called quasi-crystals, which is really a new way that they're growing new crystalline lattices. All right, and they're capable of doing things that are different. We have very few natural occurring quasi-crystals here on Earth. One would be in a mine in North Carolina that produces green tourmaline and beryl. And when you get the combination of those two together, it starts producing a weird oxidation on like the beryl, a weird colored green oxidation. Those are natural quasi crystals. And I have a friend for years, and she's been a collector and used to run a rock shop for years. And in youth, she went to many different sites to dig for crystals and things. But this was a mine she went to, and she had an encounter with one of the caretakers of the mine that she was a little kid and she's going to pick up a snake. And this gentleman hit her telepathically, don't pick that up. That's a snake. It's not a tire iron. And she turned around and looked, he's down the hill and he's the caretaker. She said, he came into my mouth so strong, in my mind so strong, he had to have been from somewhere else. And if you think about it, they're monitoring they're monitoring the quasi crystals. What's her name? Shirley McLean. She's got a ranch out there near Caldera, I think it is, Mexico. But she talks about she's near one of the mines that exploded all the crystals. So there are crystals all around there, and they're shifting there all the time. Also going into the things. I want to deviate to something real quick while they're listening. When I was on Facebook, clicking back on, Annette Lemur said give her a shout out. I definitely do that. I was going to ask her. She's one of the people that came forward to me and told me she has experienced black extraterrestrials here on Earth. She's an experiencer of that, and I want her to get on USA Talk and maybe just say what happened, what she's seen. There's many people that kind of want to hear it that aren't saying anything. Obviously, not everybody can say they've experienced a black extraterrestrial, or even an ethnic extraterrestrial for that matter. I have, but it's not common. I kind of want to bridge the gap on that right now, if that makes sense. Because I think we all have to come together to pass this knowledge more. I can't say I know that much because I meet the other person. His experience is so much different or so much more encompassing that I learned something. You know what I mean? There's no tapestry. There's no book for this whole field like people want it to be. Everybody jumping out. This is that. These people are Andromeda. These people are from Arcturus. That's nice. Most of my guides and my contacts didn't tell me where they were from. When I asked, they say weird things. We're from Sector 047. What does that mean? Or we're from this region of space. You know what I mean? Something like that. Anyway, sorry. You gonna say something?
No, that's very interesting. you had mentioned something earlier about blue beings. Oh, not the blue beings, but you had mentioned something about the grays. My apologies. And how the grays are manufactured, for lack of a better word. And then you were talking about the souls or spirits going in and out with the technology. It felt like the blue being that was there. It felt like, first of all, a program. But when I started to think about that concept of the blue being, and it felt like there was some artificialness to it, and that might have been its shell, if you will. But what was inside of it seemed conscious. Does that make any sense at all?
Yes, it does. Well, I mean, if we're dealing even with artificial intelligence, which is what this is, all this is artificial intelligence. Obviously, some part of it self-activating, and we know that we've been told there's like 60 different varieties of gray. Like humanity has a basic blueprint that is called the Adam Kadmon, Kadmon. But what is the name of the blueprint for the gray frame? Assuming that isn't humans from the future that are suffering from radiation poisoning. But that's another subject. But you know what I mean? But I think, well, there's a reason why, they keep coming here and genetically messing with humans. And what happens in the future that if crop circles are entry points for time travelers, what happens maybe 30,000 years in the future that they're coming back here for genetic material? What makes me kind of think is that if we actually evolve into the Merkaba, into the light body, and our next container for awareness beyond this physical vessel, is that a point where we get so advanced that there are no more genetic plates, or what are you templates? Do we get to that point? There's no more genetic templates in the future, and they're coming back here not just to terraform, but to also try to gain some good DNA before it's over. It's just hard to tell. You know what I mean? I'm just throwing that out there as food for thought.
Food for thought. Speaking of food for thought, you have any comments on cannabis?
Yes, I think the way that our society, America, deals it effing sucks, is what I think. And I think that when you've got the medicinal quality that it's presented, it's being addressed, but it's not being acknowledged, and it's being treated instead like it's voodoo or witchcraft or something. I don't want to use the word voodoo, witchcraft. You know what I mean? And it's interesting to me when I see alcohol that has the term spirits behind it, but you can go to a bar and drink as much of it as you want, as long as you don't drive, go home, beat up your family, and lose your job, ruin your body. You know what I mean? Marijuana doesn't do that, but it's still treated even worse. You know what I mean? God forbid they test you and find THC in your blood. Or if you take one hit and you don't pass your test for your job, you smoke even a couple of hits for whatever it might be, even medicinal, you don't even deserve to have a job. Because it can show up in your body for 40 days later.
Or you just go to California and breathe. Because everywhere in California I went, it was like, there it is. There it is. It didn't matter where I was. I smelled it everywhere. So if I take a drug test after that, is it going to be in my system? How's that fair?
Yeah, and there's things like certain cancers and certain insomnias and things that marijuana can help with. So I think, of course, it can be abused like anything and taken too far. But I think the way our society is looking at it, besides just a couple of states, is ridiculous. I'm in Kansas, and they're legalized in Colorado, and the amount of troopers you see on the border between here and there, it's crazy. You know what I mean? That's much easier to spend all that money for that than legalizing it here. It's really odd to me. That's all I can really say on that.
So then it's all about control and nothing about helping humanity.
No expansion.
I'm trying to remember the poster. I think I put it on my site, but it was something to the effect of a person is a lot more advanced. Instead of asking, is it legal? You ask, is it good for humanity?
Yes. Yes.
A better question.
Wow. All right. God, I guess I'm supposed to show this.
Go for it.
This is another being. All right. This is another being I've encountered. And I say this because I want other experiences to understand something. If they're anything like I was, my contacts and experiences did not conform to modern ufology or new age stuff or religion. Okay. So that kind of left me kind of just out in the middle going, you know what I mean? And that way, what you're experiencing may not conform to anything you're hearing. Don't be scared of that. Kind of embrace it and learn about it. This is a being that first came to me when I was a child. The first, I guess we call him extraterrestrial, that revealed himself to me. It was on a ship, actually. And his name is Xandar, right?
Oh, he looks familiar.
And Xandar is, everyone said, it's a mantid. He is not a mantid. That was made very clear to me. He looked much more, and Kasara did a good job with this. He looked much more like a cross between a grasshopper and a locust. Right? And in that way, so that's Xandar. Behind him is a star system that we've termed a Bell 2256. It's 900 million light years out. He said he was a space there beyond nanospace and the exospace-time continuum. He was the first one to tell me you won't understand when you tell me where I'm from, because it doesn't fit the parameters for life anymore. So that's it. I've showed this actually to a few people on Facebook. So that's one. All right.
Now, does Does he hover? And I'm asking that for a really, really good reason.
Does he have what?
Does he hover instead of walk?
Yes. How do you know that? Yes. Normally
I
he wears
have met them.
normally he wears a white outfit that looks a little bit
Yeah,
more
white,
like something
and
from
they
the
hover.
Federation. Yeah, it looks like a Star Trek Federation admiral uniform. Yeah, he's very old. I can tell you that, and we're connected. I mean, immediately he stepped forward, and I knew he knew me. Like I've known him for lifetimes. You know what I mean? Definitely a scientist type. But that was the first time I was like, oh, where is he not? He's not from Sirius. He's not from where the mented beings are from. He's not a mented looking like this. You know, it's not. He had human proportion limbs also, and his eyes were milky, looked like milk almost, gray milk of a type, like dark.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, this is another one right here, and this is I think is a good one. This is Mana. Okay, Mana is amphibious and is from the multiverse.
Why does that
Um,
look so
when you see
familiar?
his species, he's about 8 feet tall, I'd say. When you see his
Uh-huh.
species, they have the unique characteristic of looking like their brain is on the outside. But when I take it to our planet, it looks much more like a cross between armadillo, uh, an armadillo, what do you call it? Skin, I guess, or covering armor. I'm sorry, armadillo armor and fish skin, patterned skin. But it looks very much like the brains are on the outside. And his eyes, and interesting, my friend Casilla that I talk to sometimes at night, she looked at this drawing and she kept saying, you keep saying he, but to me, that is a female. I feel female coming off that, especially out of the eyes. What she got very right is the eyes. Let's get
Mm-hmm.
it right. Yeah. So anyway, that is Mana. And yeah, but I didn't understand. Like when he's communicating with me, he's telling me weird things like, "Well, if you can understand Star Wars, Doctor Akbar," and I figured out who that was. That's on the Rebel show, on the Rebel ship on Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
He's the toad-looking thing with the big eyes. It's in control. He said, "If you can understand his species, you'll understand mine more." So I wound up calling some of my ex-employees. They used to have each year. They're all third shifters. They used to have me get them off each year because they wanted to go to natural star net or annual Star Wars night. So they all would have their outfits and they knew everything about it. I asked one of them to tell me about Dr. Akbar. He sent me to a website that described amphibious being. Also, some of them are Jedis, some of them are scientists, and parts of them are like different types of amphibians, and one is reptilian actually. But you've got a couple of different ones there. And I'm sorry, when I first started learning about the exospace-time continuum, or the multiverse as we call it now, I couldn't even imagine an aquatic planet out there. A planet of water, a water world. It just didn't hit me like that. You know what I'm saying?
Very interesting.
Here's another one. This is what I encountered was an Andromeda council member. All right. And what's most interesting about that is she got the device, the healing device he has in his hand, very correct, if you can see it. It's got, it's a crystal, an odd shaped crystal that has fiber optics coming out of it. And on board, on that crystal had certain symbols, ancient symbols, okay? And they were using that to up the frequent, as they called it, let me get this right, the light quanta of my DNA, because I did not believe in myself and I wasn't fulfilling my purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and I mean, but they weren't experimenting on me. And this little guys were, gosh, Kelly, they were about 2 feet tall. They were little. I mean,
Really?
I could easily have knocked them down and go on with whatever I was doing, but it wasn't about that. You know what I'm saying? So that's an Andromeda Council member. Only thing that's different is his eyes are a little more angled, I'd say, and his suit was white. There were white stripes, like a racing white stripes going down the arms and the legs, and they could telepathically communicate with the ship without even touching it. And he said it had something to do with the fiber optics, the optic technology in their suits. Also, that's part of it. So recently I just posted something on Facebook, and I think you tagged it. It was quasi crystals that were grown in a laboratory. It's a solid formation, and the little quasi crystals coming out are sticking up out of it, and it looks like fiber optics. And I advise anyone, I advise anyone to look at like maybe the original Superman movie with Christopher Reeve and Marlon Brando, and even Superman Returns, horrible movie, but they deleted a scene called Return to Krypton, and in that, what they used is crystal technology to show how technology would be in the future.
This is very, very interesting.
Yeah, that's you know, and that because they said, well, not just did we have problems with the sets because paying Marlon Brando so much, we also knew that technology was going to be the wave of the future for humanity, and it was cost efficient. And I will tell you this: one ship that I saw looked to be like a Pleiadian ship. The first time I had adult onset contact, physical contact, this ship showed up looking like a Pleiadian ship with a directional emitter on the top, and it went around the back of us and it started pulsing, and it turned into a crystal ship that looked similar to the original Superman. When he sent Kal-El to Earth, he sent him in this ball, this crystal ball with stalagmites coming off of it. And this thing looked just like that, but it was joined like a molecule to two others. So it looked like a pyramid in that way. And it was pulsating light from each one. And how the heck are you going to describe that to anybody? If you even tell somebody you saw a UFO, they're going to laugh you out of the building. You tell somebody you watch Star Trek, they're going to laugh at you. But if you tell somebody, oh, I think I was on this ship and I saw it went from metal to like crystal stuff, that's not going to go over very good at all during brunch.
No, you're a medical candidate now for our latest drug.
Well, you see why it kind of spurred me to keep my ass. I'm sorry, my mouth's quiet.
I was trying to look for that picture to show everybody, and Facebook shut down on me. That's really weird.
Another technical problem. Real quick, the last picture I'll show. This is Mana and the Andromeda Council member behind the engine. Okay, and the engine isn't quite big as it would actually be if you could see it. But it's interesting about Christine Dennett Casara is she drew this for me, and at no point did I tell her I encountered those two beings on the same ship. See what I mean? So I give her much.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Tiffany. What would you like? Come up here. She usually wants to just jump up here behind me. If I gave her room, she's not coming.
Feline beings, probably. The feline beings. They're around too.
She's unique, that's for sure. Yeah. We didn't even get to Corey Good, and we are so out of time. Will you come back and
if people want me to have back, I would in a heartbeat. I feel like I kind of didn't do good. I talked too off subject this time a little bit. Yeah, let's ask questions. I'm going left like it's a football stadium instead of staying on subject. So I apologize.
Someone said that was one of the comments. Go left, go left. So I didn't understand what that meant, but now I do. They were encouraging you to go left.
That's true. So many. I'll be honest. We did the first one. I knew it was going to be different because we're here in America. The ones I did with Peter were for the Australian deal. But I mean, I knew more people would see it, but I thought maybe like 100 or 200 might watch it. I didn't think in the first couple of days there'd be 1,000 people that saw it, and that means people would reach out. If people want to talk to me, unless you like got a bunch of demonic stuff on your Facebook page, send me a request. I'll most likely accept it, and I'll communicate with people. Last time I got swamped, so many people asked me questions. I started missing questions, and I screwed up a little. I did try. I'll do better next time. But I don't mind talking to people at all. It's as free as my time. So
that is so cool. And I'm so excited that you came on here and so happy that you went off track because you talked about stuff that I couldn't have even dreamt of asking you. So I really appreciate that a lot.
Oh, well, thank you. And I thank everybody. I appreciate you all. God bless you all. I've received beautiful energy during this whole interview. That's kind of why I was getting so hyped and talking so fast.
Well, I'm happy because stuff came out that might not have come out before. This is freaking awesome.
Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome.
Hey, keep up the implant removal, please.
And on the implant removal, what?
Keep up the implant removal and posting people on that. I mean, I think that's a really, really big deal, Kelly. A really big deal.
I'm looking over here and I accidentally charged shipping. So don't worry if I accidentally charge shipping. I'm giving partial refunds to all you guys that caused that accidentally happened. But I got 7 appointments in 1 hour for implant removals. So
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I have to go deal with those now. So lots of people need the implants removed. This is incredible.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more coming forward. And listen to Eric, the amount of people that might be able to do it if you just have the patience and learn the technique. It could change things. I mean, it's wonderful. I love to see this deal being changed, this whole dark system.
Oh yeah, and that's what I'm doing during the implant removal is not only removing them, but I'm going to teach them how to do it so they don't have to come back.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, a whole new way of doing things.
Is to not get implanted again. I think is the way to do it. You know, learning how not to, because it's just nothing but every place we go ready to implant us. So man, and now that you know it's not alien-like, it's a demonic thing. It's like, oh.
Smacks forehead.
Yeah, well, I think, maybe I'm good to reincarnate again. Get white clean and send you back in. Hey, go on back there. You just forgot.
I'm not going back. I'm not going into the light. I'm not going into the light.
I came back remembering, but I swear there were some souls next to me saying, "Man, you sure you want to do that? You sure you're gonna go back there? You're gonna forget everything." I'm like, "No, I'm strong this time." Yeah, right.
Well, hey, I died. I cheated. I died.
We both died, you know. But you know, had it not been from that, the first time I encountered you on your first video was after I had died. I just remembered who I was in the hospital. I was like, somebody else had to have seen these angels, but beside me. And I came across your interview. You only had 50 of them up on there. It's like maybe your 4th one you're doing it like now, and then the next one was over Comment LittletonAlien. I was like, wow, she saw what I saw on that. That was cool.
Oh, that's cool. You saw that too.
The same day, yeah. Because I tried to look at Comment LittletonAlien, and I couldn't see anything but this sea of crystals. And that always gets my attention because they're glowing inside like the other stuff I've seen, and I can see these other boxes kind of following it that look to me like artificial intelligence. Almost like the monolith from 2001, to be quite honest with you. That's what I saw. But hey, I don't know. That means it's right. But
yeah, hey. But who are we?
Yeah, exactly.
Mass hallucinations.
I think that was something like that. Coming back is what I thought it was. Something like from the Type 1 civilization that was once here that I remember. I thought that was something coming back like the rocket boosters come back here. Except it's been on like a 2,000 year orbit, maybe 25,000 year orbit. I don't know. Kind of like Voyager from Star Trek, the first motion picture. Remember that was Voyager they sent out and it came back.
I didn't want that happen. Oh my gosh, Barry! I hate to say bye.
Oh, that's all right.
I don't even say bye to you. You're just so full of information today. This is so awesome.
It's by the blessing of spirit and people that wanted me to talk. I had little to do with it. I appreciate everybody.
And we had a huge live audience, by the way. That doesn't happen very often.
Oh, that's cool, right on. They had to wait for us to get technical difficulties out of the way. Lord.
We're still having some, but I'm kind of trying to manually pretend like I'm Google. The kinder, gentler Google. Oh, that's me. All right, Barry. Thank you so much for coming on here, and we will definitely have you on back again. Thank you guys for tuning in and asking such wonderful questions. I couldn't get to all your questions. I apologize to the person. I was just being funny, and that person is autistic, so I apologize that there are noise sensitive people out there, and I was insensitive when I did that with my candy, so I apologize for that. So,
well, hey, you be like me. I mess up all the time. I don't do my stuff right. So
that's me. I screw up all the time. I fall down and people watch me.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I guess we will see you on the next video. Bye.